My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. P.O.C. This is the entity where the fake moon is where the fake sun is setting, right here at the Bethel Church. And this is the entity that is stalking with impossible light. That's the entity that's targeting, also under the fake moon that's in alignment to me, right here at F Street in Euclid. And there's not sunlight that's reaching from your vehicle onto walls. License 9RGB 741, stalking. Doing so with the Ontario Police, as I documented, doing side of the street, knowing exactly who I am, stalking in the path with light like I'm showing at nightfall as well, when they're aiming headlights from over there, engineer light moving across the wall. That's as impossible as driving next to the fake sun, number one, and number two, as you do so, impossible light shooting off of the passenger side, and it's not shooting off. That's a term to understand the entity that is stalking in the path with every third party. At nightfall, 8XQZ 704, impossible light with regard to engineer light moving across the wall in the same manner. All right, this is P.O.C. You can see the engineer light that they're driving in that's hitting the passenger side of their vehicle, and the fake sun is on the driver's side of their vehicles. All right, that's the pattern of conduct of stalking with light. These are demons, and this is the signature of stalking. They're not strangers. These are demons gang stalking. P.O.C. And this is the entity that's going to be prosecuted for the sex offense while they engage in this inside of buildings. This is the entity that's engaging in the stalking with impossible light, which everyone in the building is engaging in targeting an American citizen, and doing so in the manner, as I'm showing you, the signature of the environment where you're proving that you are being targeted by the government, okay? Not just the sex offender with the license plate. This is F Street in Euclid, where the fake moon and the Ontario Police Department are gang stalking in concert with the people of the state. 8 BOZ 997. And at nightfall, when they drive off, their headlights are not moving across like when they're driving off an engineer light right now. It's not sunlight during the day, and it's not their headlights at night. All right, these are indeed demons, and they're doing so when they're engaging in harassment like what you see on video. They're speaking as the state. That's the state that's calling you out of your name, that's angry because you're documenting them stalking you. Okay, and because you're documenting them, very angry because when they're going by the Bethel congregation, you document them stalking, angry because you know that they're stalking, that they are engaged in stalking you. And that's the state. P.O.C. It is currently 7:32 a.m. Remember, the entity is keeping the fake sun over me while I am on transportation going to the city of Pomona, and covering up that fake sun does not change. But I also have the entity keeping the fake sun shining in Pomona. But the entity is engaged in what is real-time knowledge and a delusion regarding, like, Pomona's outside of the pattern of conduct. That's the mentally ill that are stalking with impossible light. That same lack of intelligence. License 8NZV910. This is P.O.C. It's 7:32 a.m. at 537 North Euclid Avenue. The Ontario Police stalking repeatedly by helicopter is the evidence of what is mental illness while they're doing so in a specific environment. This is demonic, and so is their behavior, and it's also criminal. P.O.C. License plate, impossible light, fake sun, amplified, 7MYD458. Engaging in criminal monitoring with the government. The government that's stalking by helicopter is stalking via her license, engaging in a sex offense, impossible light activity, molesting. This is a sex offense committed by stalkers. My shadow's appearing in the middle of the street in the shade, and the fake sun is in alignment to me. In the same way, when they're driving on Euclid Avenue going south, the fake sun's to the driver's side of their vehicle, and impossible light is moving across the passenger side. You can see the highlighted light. That's the impossible light that's showing my shadow in the middle of the street, and it's impossible light activity. It is there, in other words, for criminal monitoring purposes, and everybody's vehicle that's lined up on Euclid Avenue is engaging in criminal monitoring. They're engaging in stalking, including where their business is located, including where they're engaging in coffee purchasing and working at the venue, because the fake sun is over me at your place of work, for example, where you are stalking on behalf of the government. Okay, the government that is stalking by planes over the intersection in the same way that the Ontario International Airport does. This is P.O.C. That's the entity maintaining aerial surveillance, maintaining the fake sun, and maintaining the environment conducive for what is gang stalking, which is what is demonic activity, and it is centered around the engineer light. 7PWR415. And on the opposite side of the street, impossible light is reaching to the side of the street where I'm on. So they're avoiding being documented on a license plate temporarily because they're still stalking with light. It's not like they're deviating from the pattern of conduct, and they never do, they being demons. So staying on the opposite side is just because they know that they're being documented. They're still monitoring, and impossible light is not required when they're driving by. That's why when there are no vehicles at all, the entity still engages in molestation with light. And the entity is doing so while they are crossing path. 8GGK031. No vehicle driving by, for example, you're being molested with impossible light. When they associate it with a vehicle driving by, no vehicle drives by, the same impossible light activity, and a demon is flying in relevant position in the sky space above you. It's the same combination of presence and engineer light and amplified noise. 7PWR415. 9UPC528. These are the demons that are engaging in physically attacking and engaging in what is harassment, like I documented. 8YJM266. 8TJT264. Starbucks is engaged in gang stalking, like I already documented. 8HNR 252, 9FFE 962, 7VRT 912, 8K81183. All right, and the fake sun is over the intersection of E and Euclid, and no longer over F in Euclid, where I'm at, okay? Where demons are driving through what is not sunlight and under what is not the sun. It's the identification of monitoring, of targeting, in other words. My shadow is appearing in the shade while someone is making noise with their vehicle. They're monitoring. The fake sun's moving in real time. There's shadows appearing underneath the car. They're monitoring. This is the same intersection where the Ontario International Airport and the Ontario Police are gang stalking at E and Euclid. It's currently 7:37 a.m. Everyone is monitoring. License 8HLN 807, like the Ontario Police proof. Okay, I've already documented that, like the City of Ontario has already proved. That is the entity that is stalking by impossible light activity, which is relevant to their behavior pattern, which is demented, they're demons, and the abnormal environment is demonic, and it's relevant to what is criminal surveillance in violation of federal stalking statute. Title 18, Section 22618, subsections 1 and 2. They're monitoring using devices while they're walking around and driving around. Cell phones, even the entity using them in the environment is relevant to what is exposing ongoing surveillance. 31739B2, 7MTK 484, 7KPN 222, P.O.C. Alrighty, let me take these pictures really quick. I am at what is where the entity committed kidnapping at 7:15 in the morning, where the entity has the fake sun pacing in and out of the entrance. He's walking in engineer light. He is monitoring, and he's doing so as opposed to driving off in the vehicle, which is what he's climbing in his vehicle. Understand it's based on what it is that I do, because I started recording. That's light activity. The entity's engaging in what is monitoring. Okay, looks like Tracy Banks' vehicle, gang stalking with the people of the state. Yeah, that is Tracy Banks' head. The license 9HUZ740. There's no sun that's over her apartment at Unit 51, by the way. As I'm documenting that, from 6:30 in the morning until after 6 o'clock in the evening, she is gang stalking on the roads and the highways like everyone, and she was gang stalking at her apartment. She's gang stalking while the fake sun's at Chevron and ARCO, where I'm documenting the fake sun in the evening. And I'm also reminding you the fake sun set at the same time 12 hours from now in Fontana at the Fontana Lewis Library, and it has the same uncanny ability to remain in alignment with me, where I'm showing you the cities in the state of California are engaging in the statewide P.O.C. All right, it is currently 7:39 a.m. This is an entity that is stalking with impossible light activity that's appearing underneath the roof of the Starbucks, where Tracy Banks is targeting with the rest of the people of the state. She's a demon, just like every other third party and state actor. She's committed kidnapping with the entity that's targeting with a supernatural environment, and she is nothing other than a third party gang stalker whose name I know. Driving in traffic does not cause sunlight in the shade, or driving in that concentrated light to cause light to shoot apart from your vehicle on the wall. And neither does it cause it to appear underneath the covered structure. Everybody in Starbucks that committed kidnapping did exactly that with the Ontario Police, who are demons. Very heavily documented under here with at this venue, Starbucks, where the entity has a fake sun until after 7 p.m. aiming through their drive-through window. Okay, this is P.O.C. That's a demon that is stalking when they're driving by in that environment. There's no sunlight that's reaching underneath. License 8HLN 807 is inside monitoring. This demon is over here monitoring. And Starbucks' employees are indeed going to federal prison for what is showing to be the pattern of conduct. Opening and closing the door doesn't create that light activity. The sun doesn't remain for 12 hours. Engineer light is what is present, not sunlight where your shadow's appearing in the shade, and you're doing so pursuant to monitoring, okay? That is license 8K81183, and those are the demons that engage in that same violence. When I'm inside and the light I documented shooting across, that's the mental illness by the demons that are embarrassed when they're shown to be psychopaths stalking with light, circus light, showing how they're targeting, and they're very highly unintelligent as they do that, okay? P.O.C. They're also monitoring the vagina. You have the engineer light going on both sides and also reaching over here. That's a psychopath that's targeting. License plate 8K81183, and this is a homosexual, a psychopath, okay? The impossible light underneath the covering of Starbucks, and they commit kidnapping together, and they're engaging in what is a sexual assault and battery, while engineer light is showing you how that's a demon who is stalking you, and it's very hostile while you expose them. 7FFE962 is here stalking in the first place. All I did was show you the impossible light to let you know that the significance of her presence is criminal. And so is Starbucks. P.O.C. It is currently 7:41 a.m. That's timing with regard to opening and closing the door. The stalkers, who are all documented by license plate. Okay. The entity Starbucks is going to federal prison. Ocean's committing kidnapping
at 7:15 with L. Edwards and A. Quesada and Alex Escobar, where the sun is still here over me in the afternoon, where the Ontario International Airport, the Ontario Police are stalking. The sun is still here setting, where the entity, the Ontario International Airport, the Ontario Police are again stalking, and they're targeting in the same manner that they are in here when you're engaging in criminal surveillance. This is the evidence that's putting the demon-possessed in federal prison. In addition to the evidence of what is that agency that is targeting, P.O.C. Ready? That's the entity that's stuck with that impulsive light under the covering. That's a demon. That's United Airlines that is stalking via a commercial plane, and that is a demon operating that plane in an environment where the sun is still present 12 hours later. And this is what they're doing with Leonida, those demons that light up the parking lot over there stalking in the path. These are demons that do so while they're molested with impulsive light, as you see underneath the structure, and the entity is engaging what is aerial surveillance crossing path where I'm located, which is where the fake sun is, which is where the impulsive light activity coexists. And Tracy Banks is engaging in targeting and furtherance of murder. 8ZTS 503, and so is Eric Spencer, license plate 8Z61830, and so is Tracy Banks' second part of the Jason I filled 2JZMAMI. This is P.O.C. None of that is going to create the light activity that I'm showing under here, and the Ontario International Airport is directly engaged in what is criminal surveillance. Everyone in that environment is, you're sitting there and it's fanning above your head, those are gang stalking. This is P.O.C. It is currently 7:43 a.m. at what is 507 Euclid Avenue, Starbucks, flying over the UNICARE Community Center and concentrating where I'm at, which is proven through a specific environment, fake sunrise and set, P.O.C. Alrighty, I am documenting on video the impossible light activity even beyond the fake sun. It's impossible because the sun doesn't go anywhere, and it's also impossible because of the sunlight that I'm capturing in the video. And it's not sunlight. The appropriate term, as I've shown, is that it's engineered. It's supernatural. And Tracy Banks is directly engaging in that pattern of conduct that's going to directly contend with her criminal defamation. All right, the impossible light activity, the specific environment, is going to directly rebut the acts of criminal defamation that she's committed with the demons that are gang stalking right along with her. That includes the City of Ontario. In the same way that the City of Ontario, the Ontario Police Department have contended with, that is rebut the evidence of criminal defamation. 9HST 590. In the specific environment, this is the entity that's engaged in what is at the same time criminal defamation while you're targeting and furtherance of murder. That's why Tracy Banks is on camera under the fake sun. She's not coincidentally doing so, she is stalking. That's why the fake sun is there, and she knows exactly where I'm at, including when she walks into the library, but she knows exactly where I'm at in the specific environment. She knows every syllable that I utter while I'm documenting her co-defendant, 8JIE777, psychopaths that are stalking in ridiculous circus light. And then as you document them, they engage in what I'm documenting last night, harassment, which is by the Ontario Police who are stalking in helicopter. It's by the City of Ontario stalking in planes. It's by the mayor, the entity that is speaking as one, and they're demons that are doing so in that environment where light is supernaturally flying above your head, where your shadows appearing in the shade, where the entity is engaging what is driving in the shade, and engineered light is moving about on the walls. That's what's happening, by the way, inside of Starbucks and inside of Tracy Banks' apartment, which is impossible to be the case. This is where surveillance is underway. Tracy Banks is going to prison. 9SJA287, 8CKG353, so is Fields, and so is Spencer, Eric Spencer. License plate 50610A4. And the entity that's kidnapping with the Ontario Police, every one of them are going to federal prison, including the kidnappers of that agency and the demons of the Ontario International Airport. It's being shut down, but they're going to prison for engaging in this criminal pattern of conduct. License plate. Not only is it targeting while they're flying over here, because the fake sun is still here till sunset, this is targeting the environment, targeting me in the environment, and it's also engaging in what is the kidnapping with the entity that commits the kidnappings. In the same way that you see them stalk with helicopter while they're engaging in chuckling and holding up their phones, that's what the entity does when they're kidnapping with planes and helicopters. 05138G2, they're engaging in surveillance, and it's a public criminal act by demons who commit kidnapping with the airport, with the police department, with the fire department, with the people of the state. 31907D1. All right, license 5NXG006 STZ12S1, that's the Texas plate. License 9TIH520 is the ARCO employee, and ARCO at 434 North Euclid Avenue is engaging in that pattern of conduct. The entities engaging in the conduct, the third-party license 8SVE665 goes to the gas stall and is engaging in surveillance while the fake sun's now departing from what was F Street in Euclid, where the demon is stalking in the path, driving parked on the wrong side of the road, creating light activity and doing so. License 8PPK640 649, and the demons that replicate the same conduct of targeting, they do so in the absence of Leonida, as though that's going to suggest that Leonida was not specifically engaged in that, and they were. That's why they were stalking in the path, just like Tracy Banks stalking in the path. While the entity does so by planes, Tracy Banks and Leonida are stalking in the path. While the entity does so while the next day, while Leonida's not there, Leonida is engaged in what is stalking in the path, and this is license 9TUA417 that was communicating a threat while Leonida in particular was being documented. He put his hazards on, parked on the wrong side of the road right in front of me under the fake sun, and that's a statement by those that are also hostile to deportation, like Leonida Builders, the company, and its employees who are gang stalking and replicating that same pattern of conduct does not remove Leonida. Leonida is going to be prosecuted, and ICE is already on alert, and if they're not the only ones that are subject to the deportation policy, everybody in the state of California is, as the city of Ontario has shown is necessary, the entire population, including the immigrant population. License 8PPK 649. And the demons at the Ontario Veterinary Hospital, they're gang stalking with Tracy Banks, and I want to be clear, they also know who I am. They know with regard to Tracy Banks' interest in concealing information from me, stealing from me. Tracy Banks, the entity, Jason Fields, being paid to target me as well. They're very much invested in what is targeting in furtherance of murder with Tracy, who's a part of that pattern of conduct. Not only when I'm capturing her crossing path under the fake sun with this engineer light underneath the covering of Starbucks and across the wall of the bus stop outside where the fake moon is over me at nightfall. This is the entity that is gang stalking. Tracy Banks is always engaged in criminal monitoring. It's a statewide P.O.C. License 7ZOZ077, I believe. 720Z077, 9LUA 738. P.O.C. All right, this is ARCO and CHEVRON, the two venues that are engaging in that pattern of conduct with the airport. The airport is not only shown to be targeting by location, hovering miles away to be over the UNICARE, doing so as I walk to the intersection and as the fake sun removes itself from being over the church. And just like the fake moon is at night, going from the library to the intersection of 537 North Euclid Avenue at F and Euclid, following with the fake moon, which I'm capturing the fake moon over the Chevron at night when I'm there, moving as I move, not remaining there, and in the same way the fake moon is over me while I'm exiting the Fontana Lewis Library at the Fontana Chamber of Commerce, for example. I get on Omnitrans, I come to Ontario, the fake moon is over me at the Ontario Town Square. All right, and then following to wherever it is that I retire for the evening, which is where the fake sun will rise. And that's exactly what I'm documenting. While Tracy Banks is engaging in the pattern of conduct at East Street and Euclid, she's engaged in the pattern of conduct ceaselessly. Like I stated, I'm prosecuting her as I document the city of Ontario, the state of California, and you are mindful of all the lies that have already come out with which she's going to federal prison, including while she's gang stalking under the fake sun and engineer light. It directly rebuts the evidence of criminal defamation, because that's all it is. And as she's gang stalking, that's targeting. So the question is, it's absolutely irrelevant. Well, it's not irrelevant because you're going to prosecute, but there's no question regarding the American citizen's sanity. You're talking incompetence. You're talking about targeting. 8 EWZ 796, and it's the same analysis with regard to her co-defendant, the Ontario Police Department, who are not coincidentally under the fake moon and under the fake sun gang stalking me, also committing kidnappings together and criminally defaming together. P.O.C. All right, another means of identifying targeting is the entity will remove products that you typically purchase. I've noticed this pattern didn't say anything at first, but the entity does so with regard to the merchandise that I buy while they're also stalking and monitoring in the store. That's another means of targeting. In the same way that the entity is engaging in what is targeting with the fake sun at Chevron and the fake moon at Chevron, with helicopter and plane activity at Chevron, and through the population of those that are stalking inside of the market of Chevron, the entity is engaged in whatever it is routinely bought, whatever the demons observe that I like, that's the product that will not be present while they're still gang stalking. I don't have to come inside and make a purchase for Chevron to be prosecuted, by the way. I come inside and I document how Chevron is indeed engaged in what it is that I've already stated the state is engaged in altogether. That's why the fake sun and all that pattern of conduct is underway. The entity does engage in targeting, however, that's relevant to harassment that they're already going to be prosecuted for. The entity is engaged in very heavy-duty surveillance, including of my vagina, and is very much engaged in targeting while they have engaged in removing several products that I would typically buy while they're still gang stalking, including, I don't have to come inside of the store. The demons are on Euclid Avenue stalking with impossible light. Chevron is gang stalking. P.O.C. All right, that's a means of what is targeting as well. So I want to document that. And Chevron is gang stalking under the fake sun with immigrants. That's relevant to deportation. And they're doing so with regard to harassment, removing products. These are the very petty means where you're not even going to be selling a product if you're even going to remain in this country. I'm going to prosecute the company, and I'm going to prosecute the demons that are employed. Engaging in terrorism, Chevron is facilitating terrorism amongst the immigrant population as well. It's the same analysis as you are able to raid, you are able to prosecute with regard to all the ways in which the policies are going to serve prosecution and targeting domestic terrorism in the U.S. Just want to point that out. That's just with regard to the status of the wide class of defendants, a whole population targeting an American citizen. Well, every single business, every single city, you're talking about deportation, you're talking about prosecuting the entity that's engaging in what is a sex offense, and the criminal record of companies that are publicly identified as such, and also not existing altogether because you don't maintain a constitutional right to keep a business that's going to be prosecuted for terrorism. You don't have a constitutional right to do that. So it's not necessitating that the company is even going to continue to exist, especially following prosecution for criminal activity, which is what, for example, Chevron is engaging in. So in the same way that you're looking at criminal conduct of Vivanco, who's going to be prosecuted, who's going to prison, the prosecution of Chevron is going to go very similarly. Chevron is a person under law, and it's also a terrorist, and the evidence is fully establishing that. I can surround them with the evidence of targeting me via the environment, by the city, by the people of the state, by its employees, and the patrons that's even coming inside of the venue with regard to targeting me specifically, even down to the way in which they inventory the products as I purchase it, which is a pattern. I've shown that at Grocery Outlet, Stater Brothers, the entity that's engaging in targeting. But just want to be clear, it is a prosecution of businesses who are the people of the state, commercially targeting with the government. Okay, the government that prosecutes Chevron as I'm subject to terrorism by plane and helicopter at the venue as well. This is P.O.C. It's currently 7:53 a.m. at 506 North Euclid Avenue. All right, what you will see at 7:59 a.m., what you will see are the demons that are maintaining surrounding presence. This is stalking. They're doing so when I walk out of the bathroom in the OVITT Family Community Library and you see a third party, I'm taking a picture of who's standing in front in the path. That's a sex offender, number one, but that's the objective in the engineer light, which fills the library. It's the P.O.C. walking out of the Chevron, maintaining presence, making sure that they are stalking in the path, blocking your path with regard to monitoring you. Very obsessive and demented conduct by demons, who are also doing so by aerial surveillance as well. But as I'm taking pictures, you're going to see the demons that are crossing path. Being at the gas stall is a means of them doing so. They're doing so under the fake sun, so that's the true purpose, 7UGU 351. Hiding behind a purpose is a federal RICO case. It's the same criminal pattern of conduct. These are demons that they think that they're clever, but they actually don't think they're clever, especially when you're stalking in helicopter every night. There's no evidence of any mental illness of the target individual. You're going to be prosecuted for clear targeting. But nonetheless, 8F16033 is doing so, blocking the path at ARCO as I walk out of the entrance. The license plate of the white vehicle you'll see at 7:59 driving onto the driveway, blocking the path across the street. With regard to my location at the entrance, you'll see a third party, that's a demon, getting, quote unquote, getting out of the vehicle. They're stalking in the path as they walk into Starbucks, being in my path and doing so. Very demonic with regard to that synchronicity. They're doing so while they are monitoring. Remember, getting out of the car is activity creation. They are monitoring inside of Starbucks right now, monitoring me. And while I'm outside, you're looking at that ongoing time. And getting out of the vehicle is a demon that's walking in the engineer light, monitoring as I walk outside of Chevron. Doing so while you're driving onto the parking lot of Chevron to go into a gas stall, you're blocking the path. Doing so while you're walking into the mini market of ARCO across the street from my person as I walk outside of the entrance is monitoring. They're moving in that engineer light, and the fake sun is around me. That's letting you know the intent and the focal point regarding demons whose thoughts you can't see. That's getting to what is their demonic spirit and the purpose behind everything that they're doing, understanding that monitoring is underway. None of it is normal and natural and coincidental conduct. It's with regard to what it is that I'm doing as I do it. As I walk out, maintaining that sort of uniform presence at the same time, which on its surface, especially when you're ignorant about demons, you're not even making any connection whatsoever on the surface. Somebody just you don't even notice, but they're getting out of their car. They're doing so as I walk out. They are maintaining presence at the gas stall or driving up to the gas stall. They're doing so while I'm walking out of the entrance and keeping me under surveillance inside of the Chevron, which is in alignment to the Starbucks that has engineer light, which is how you know Starbucks is very much engaged in focusing on me and not making coffee as a company, engaging in what is stalking, including all the demons that are at that venue, both via traffic, stalking me, and also by placement in the path at Euclid and E, where the entity is stalking by planes and undocumented by helicopter on a ceaseless basis, and the entity doing so while the fake sun remains at sunrise and sunset at this same intersection. Starbucks is not focused on coffee. Starbucks is about criminal surveillance and, as I've shown, kidnapping upon exposing that corrupt company. The entity is engaging in what is monitoring me while I'm inside of Chevron and I'm using my device, and you're looking at engineer light moving across the ceiling on the interior of that covering over the building outside while Tracy Banks is driving by and everybody else on Euclid Avenue. They don't have to talk to you while they're gang stalking you. And all you're going to refer to is the criminally defamatory statements that Tracy Banks and everybody else that she paid and initiated to defame me in court, because they're all going to prison. All of them. That's what the evidence of gang stalking me produces. And that's inevitably. That's not just me dictating, oh, engineer, something that has no correlation. In other words, whoa, well, you look at that, so that means that. No, I've shown, and through a systematic breakdown of what is targeting, I explained all of that. Now we can go ahead and tackle what these demons have been doing, all behind my back, by the way, with regard to court hearings that I was not a part of, with regard to property that was not disclosed to me, but Tracy Banks is lying about things that don't exist to people that are not police officers to commit what is kidnapping under the law that they don't have authority under, that doesn't even apply to me, while she's not mentioning the fact that she has my money, she has my property, she's been defaming me, has been participating in court hearings, while demons like license 7DGK330 are systematically gang stalking me and keeping me under surveillance as a demon-possessed population. That includes the corrupt government that entertains Tracy Banks's lies, and they don't do so ignorantly like I discussed last night. They do so as a part of a corrupt system. Whatever judge is lending ear to what Jason Fields and Eric Spencer and Tracy Banks are stating, those judges are a part of the P.O.C. 7ZZF421. License Stalking with Light across from me. License 8EON154, Stalking. All right, that's the P.O.C. Impossible light activity is going to be the evidence used to actually diagnose the mentally ill who are gang stalking, and not the gang stalking, the target individual who suffers no mental illness and who, by the way, who is prosecuting and exposing all of that. You're not mentally ill while you're doing that at the same time. It is mutually exclusive in the same way that gang stalking is mutually exclusive to the target individual being mentally ill. For RWF315, in a way that is relevant, meaning a target individual could be, let's say the ordinary target individual, like I stated before. It doesn't change that the Ontario police are stalking them every night at their apartment and then following them on the freeway and then stalking them by helicopter when they're going to work every day. Every time that they take their break at 7:13 a.m., the Ontario police is there engaging in what is stalking by helicopter, flying in circles over them where they're situated, even when they situate themselves at a different location at the city park where they're taking a break on the job, okay? That evidence of what is targeting is absolutely not relevant with regard to perhaps that target individual has clinically diagnosed depression, which is claimed to be a form of mental illness these days. Or say that they have been diagnosed with I don't know, say that they're an alcoholic. You can even say that. You don't have to limit it to mental illness. Say that they're an alcoholic. Say that they are somebody that's been diagnosed with Down syndrome. And they have this documentation showing that the state is clearly targeting them. Their Down syndrome, their alcoholism has nothing to do with the clear targeting by the state. And it's not going to be something that's going to become relevant because the state is targeting. The targeting by the state remains relevant in and of itself. The government is the one that is exposed as the wrongdoer there. And the entity would like to be like, oh, well, we're targeting, but they're an alcoholic. But that's not relevant. You're targeting an alcoholic. And but for them engaging in what is some DUI violation, or them engaging in what is getting behind the wheel, you're stalking them, period. Like, you're stalking. So when does alcoholism become relevant to the stalking conduct by the government? And it doesn't. That's my point, regardless of whatever the status of the targeted individual is. And so the entity with myself has they made it up. So they engage in what is stalking, then they engage in targeting as I'm documenting, and as I'm documenting and they're targeting, then they're manufacturing criminal acts and mental illness by virtue of the same pattern of conduct, and they're hostile because they're being exposed for it through my documentation, and then you're using that as you are engaging in obstruction as a paper trail to create a criminal record, to create manufacture a relationship where mental health isn't even relevant. You engaged in what is kidnapping me pursuant to what is obstruction of an officer. How does that relate to mental illness? At all, under the facts. But that's the entity that has engaged in what is that ongoing, totally illogical jump, because it shows what is their purpose in the first place in gang stalking. So the entity engaged in gang stalking me, and I'm documenting it. So then the entity's committed a series of kidnappings where they're then making up information that also is totally illogical with regard to the what the entity is alleging is happening when they're gang stalking, and also the result, like San Bernardino County Sheriff and the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court. That's what they've done while they've been gang stalking. Okay, what you're going to pay attention to now is the fake sun is now over the Ontario Town Square, and that's where the Ontario International Airport is no longer flying over Euclid and E, where the entity has the fake sun, and the fake sun's no longer over F and Euclid, where the fake sun is over the church, where the population is stalking, and that's also where the entity is stalking with planes. As that fake sun moves as I move, it's now over the Ontario Town Square, where the entity is stalking by planes, doing so as I arrive. You can hear that plane activity, and doing so at what is 8:08 a.m. The entity has the fake sun that I am facing the OVITT Family Community Library right now. This is at 6:02 p.m. I walked out yesterday at 6 p.m. I'm looking at the fake sun. I'm looking at the OVITT Family Community Library, walking out of this library 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 hours from now, and the fake sign is still in alignment to my person as I walk out of the entrance of this 215 EC Street OVITT Family Community Library, where the airport is again shown to be targeting and has committed a series of kidnappings, which is an independent basis for shutting down what is a terrorist and not a domestic terrorist, a threat to the public engaging in terrorism, and not a legitimate airport. Engaged in, consumed with surveillance, targeting one person and not a legitimate airport. That's also why they're flying miles away and they're hovering then over the Ontario Town Square. And I'm showing you the ongoing evidence as you can look at where I'm located, and you'll follow my path, and you'll see the entity is stalking in planes, following my path, and doing so necessarily and overtly, very clearly. It's not even anything that's hidden. In the same way that the entity tries to be sneaky, tries to be engaging in the thing right in front of your face, but it appears as that, and I have to give you context. Okay, this is what it looks like, and this is what they're simultaneously doing, and this is the criminal objective. And you're going to prosecute for that because the two are simultaneously occurring, and this is unlawful. It doesn't matter what the surface appearances, such as gang stalking through a bus schedule and a laid out bus route. They're simultaneously engaging in state surveillance. That's the prosecution of Omnitrans, of Foothill Transit, of the City of Ontario, of Alan D. WAPNER, that's engaging in criminal surveillance, still associated as a corrupt leader over that gang stalking public transportation line. And it is simultaneously underway while they have a laid out bus route. And I went and prosecuted pursuant to that. Every bus route that I take, no matter what time of the day, okay, no matter what route, different routes, different times, documenting, the entity keeps the fake sun over me. While I am en route to what is not West Coast, but Chino, and going to Montclair, and the entity has the fake sun over me in Chino, California. I'm on the bus. The fake sun is moving as the bus is moving, going the same speed limit, in other words, as the bus is. Because as I walk about 2 miles per hour, the entity is moving the fake sun at that same speed level. That's all that's happening when I'm in a car, moving that fake sun as I move. That's why it's not over F Street anymore, and I'm not facing north in order to show you what is the trajectory of the sun. That's why it's not over E Street anymore, where the entity, and I'm not facing north in order to show you where the sun is traditionally rising between Chevron and ARCO. It's only there as I am there, and it leaves as I leave, hence stalking by ARCO and Chevron, and the Ontario International Airport that's aiding in a prosecution of targeting proven by demons who are stalking, and the entity underscores that by stalking in planes and helicopters in that environment, doing so as that environment moves with me, stalking and doing so. That's the prosecution of every business. That's conspiring murder with Tracy Banks and Jason Fields and Eric Spencer and those who are perjuring themselves. And the government, that is the people of the state, that is the venue of Starbucks that has impossible light above. They're not ignorant about that. They're directly engaged in that. And by the way, it's demonic. That lets you know that not only is it not coincidental, I'm letting you know about their secrets. Those are demons preparing coffee. Those are demons in the drive-thru. Those are demons sitting outside enjoying their cafe under the fake sun that's over me while they're stalking me, monitoring me. The demons that are in them does not require them to talk to me or address me or, as you know, have any sort of relation, because I don't know them in real life. I don't know their names. I don't know any of them. And they're demons. Their knowledge of me is proven through their pattern of conduct. And that's getting to understanding the spiritual realm, which is relevant to criminal conduct maliciously underway by a corrupt government who is proven to be targeting. Pilots taking off from the Ontario International Airport are doing so at 2500 Airport Road, 2900 Airport Road, where I'm at the Ontario International Airport on Route 66, by the way, and the fake sun is not remaining over the Ontario Town Square from 8 a.m. until 6:02 p.m. The entity is moving that fake sign at the same speed limit that the vehicle is moving Omnitrans on the property, on Airport Drive, rather, and on the property of the Ontario International Airport, moving that fake sign in whatever direction that bus is going and remaining for the entirety of bus route number 61 while I'm on the Ontario International Airport property. And I've documented that as of 2025. There's no sun that's over the Ontario Town Square, and that is speaking to the target, which is myself, while the entity is targeting by flying miles away where a pilot is not still engaging in a takeoff over 4 miles away from the airport, hovering and doing so, maintaining any sort of aerial maintaining any sort of low elevation where you're listening to that audible noise relevant to a public nuisance, relevant to what is ongoing targeting shown through the environment and showing through the entity that does so outside of what's published on the website. So I've gone through that analysis before. This is the entity that's targeting, as I document the Ontario International Airport itself while I'm on the property, as I document the Ontario International Airport while they're targeting me throughout the city, as I document the Ontario International Airport as I go to the city of Fontana and Montclair, and I'm in different locations, and the fake sun is at the same time over me where demons are stalking in commercial planes in Ontario, California, speaking to what is also occurring outside of what's published on the website because they're engaged in targeting. Delta Airlines' schedule that's published online is what is a deceptive means of identifying what is the appearance of what's supposed to be the appearance of an operation of an airport, and it's not. And Delta Airlines never has any basis to be flying over me, and I've documented that and much more. Delta Airlines is engaged in targeting just like Chevron is, just like Starbucks is. They're doing so with regard to what demons are using at their disposal, using a logo that I clearly documented. The blue underbelly of Delta Airline planes flying over the top of my head while I'm on the sidewalk, while I'm on public transportation, while I'm on the grounds of what are supposedly private properties, but they're not because surveillance is underway at an apartment complex. It's not a private property. The entity is engaged in what is targeting in that specific environment and doing so as a means of obstruction of justice and claiming that it's private property, and it's not. The entity, with regard to being prosecuted, is shown to be engaged in what is criminal conduct on behalf of a public entity, and everybody there is engaged in what is criminal conduct with that public entity, stripping itself of any private property rights, especially while you're violating the privacy of that targeted individual. That's exactly why you're going to be prosecuted. That's malice by the government. Okay, the entity is engaging in that conduct, and I documented it many, many, many times. This is the basis of kidnapping by the Starbucks that I'm showing you that circus light. And then you're claiming you're calling them because you want me to make a purchase, when you could have just said, hey, did you want to make a purchase? And you don't even know that I wasn't about to get up and make a purchase. All right. But for knowledge of what is in my wallet, but for knowledge of that I'm documenting, which you're hostile to. And that's proven through the video of the ongoing kidnapping, because the demons are doing so under the fake sun that's at 7:15 in the morning. And I'm also documenting at 6 o'clock in the evening at that same Starbucks, the fake sun, not just at the Starbucks, but in alignment to me at the Starbucks, where that same agency is stalking me, as you are already also very familiar with helicopters at that, under the fake sun at the same Starbucks. And this is the entity that's doing so, again, with regard to just documenting one third party Starbucks with planes and helicopters. Just like they are this morning doing the 7 a.m. hour, the fake sun on the Euclid Avenue at that same Starbucks, flying over UNICARE, doing so at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The fake sun's in its zenith over the top of my head. The Ontario International Airport is stalking, doing so at 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. The Ontario International Airport is stalking. That's what they're doing across the street from Starbucks when I'm coming out of Chevron. And at 6:45 p.m., the entity is stalking with the fake sunset, relevant to the kidnapping at Starbucks at 7:15 a.m., where the sun is not going to be present at the same address, nor across the street from the same address while I'm at the Chevron across from Starbucks. When you're looking at the duration of time, this is how you know that Ocean is a terrorist that's engaging in what is targeting under the guise of having private property and just merely wanting to engage. That's not just bad customer service, because that's what it comes out to be. Oh, I just want you to leave, period, now. Okay, I don't even want you to make a purchase. I just want you to leave, and I have the right as a private property occupant to have you removed, and this is the entity that's engaging in gang stalking. You don't have a right to engage in gang stalking because that's what Starbucks is engaging in, and they do so admittedly under the guise of not incorporating the fact that they're targeting, but just because they have that property right to do so, because it's private property, and it's not private property in substance, and you don't have a right to do that because it's not private property, because you're sharing and facilitating criminal conduct by the demons that are stalking all night long in helicopter, like I'm documenting, and doing so with Tracy Banks, who is acting in concert with Starbucks, acting in concert with the Ontario Police, acting in concert with the Ontario International Airport, acting in concert with demons whose name you don't need to know. They have the same condition and the same criminal purpose as Tracy Banks and Eric Spencer, who have defamed my character while gang stalking was supposed to, but it obviously fails. And I'm showing you my argument, and the evidence proves that it does not serve to defame anyone. In fact, if you have somebody that's being targeted with Down syndrome, it remains irrelevant, legally irrelevant. It's legally irrelevant that the target individual has evidence of targeting, and that you then want to start talking about that they have Down syndrome. It's totally irrelevant. That's what the entity has sought to do. But even worse than that, the entity made up. They just made up. They put it on paper ahead of time. Tracy Banks lied and said, oh, yeah, give me her money. Give me her property because she's crazy. Then they went about gang stalking me to then go about trying to create the proof of it, and then submit it in a court hearings that I'm not a part of regarding property that nobody told me about. And that's how you're going to prosecute regarding the motive. But this is exposing public corruption by the government in the first place. And the clear targeting by the government, that has everything that these demons have stated in court, that Jason Isaac Fields stated in court, it is all irrelevant with regard to prosecuting them for terrorism, stealing my property, the 7+ years of being dispossessed, of being in an impoverished state, of being targeted in the workplace, and economically causing what is harm, irreparable harm. This is an entity that's engaging in criminal conduct that's resulting in federal prison inevitably. Okay, but I want to be clear, it's absolutely irrelevant because of the proof of targeting. That's overshadowing everything. You're not even going to discuss it. It's legally irrelevant because of the proof of targeting. Moreover, the entity is engaging in what is a system of corruption, and that's where you're learning the purpose of defaming the target individual. Gang stalking in particular, someone that is being defamed by an entity. That's not just somebody that wants to name call in a court. That's a third party. That's the state. Remember, the state is targeting with that third party that's uttering those defamatory sentiments in a courtroom where they're engaged in monitoring together. The fake sun over the court, the demons are inside of the court, the demons are sitting in positions of authority in that court, the demons are gang stalking, calling themselves the sheriff, calling themselves the judges, the DA, the PD, and the police on the street while I'm showing you them targeting a whole comprehensive system, including the demons that are engaging in defamation in that court. Okay, and that's all known through what is evidence of targeting. And it's not a matter of any controversy regarding what is clear defamation. Because if someone is mentally ill, why are you targeting? Because that's exactly what Tracy Banks cannot answer for. That's exactly what, again, Eric Spencer, he's going to have to feign. Well, I don't know. And Tracy, my mom told me he's going to prison. Okay, and Jason Isaac Fields, well, I was told this, and so that's why I said that, and then we started investigating, and that's why we were putting cameras and looking to see while she's naked if she's violating kids while she's naked in her apartment. Okay, those are all lies. The entity's been gang stalking for years. All right, Jason Isaac Fields engaged in abusing his position on behalf of his sex partner, targeting me, with the government that's been targeting for years. He's a puppet. He's a puppet, an unintelligent one, who's being prosecuted while he was engaging in abusing his job. I have been maintaining a case to put him away, unbeknownst to him. And the criminal conduct of the city of Ontario is serving what is the truth regarding his complicit engagement in targeting and calling it an investigation. It wasn't an investigation. It's the malicious guise of gang stalking me with his sex partner, Tracy Banks, who's out on the roads and the highways gang stalking under the fake sun. She's a demon. He's a demon. So is everybody else defaming my character. And so is everybody in the city of Ontario that I'm documenting as well. And they're doing so with the city of Ontario, demons that are under a fake sun that's still here 12 hours from now, as I'm walking out of the entrance of the OVITT Family Community Library that I'm looking at right now. It's not miles away. It's not in another city. I'm not getting in a vehicle going anywhere. I'm walking in that building. The demons are reaching toward me inside with impossible light. I walk out and that fake sun is there. That's what I took images of last night when the Ontario Fire and AMR engaging in criminal summoning at 6:07 p.m. The fake sun is still here. That's where the entity is engaging in stalking as an airport. very much specific to knowledge of who I am. They're not just engaging in what is targeting me, and they're ignorant about my money and my property. They're ignorant about my documentation. They're ignorant about the purpose of committing murder so that Tracy Banks can and the entity can get away with not facing evidence of targeting me and not facing consequences for stealing from me, from stealing my identity, for engaging in criminal conduct. The gang stalkers themselves committing criminal activity in my name. They're not strangers. You also know that they're not strangers, as I've shown through my investigation. The impossible light activity. That's underway while the entity is specifically targeting a person. And even while I'm showing that targeting, the entity is doing so in the face of that evidence, proving their condition, while they're very hostile. They're embarrassed by the fake Sun documentation. They're embarrassed by being known through what is an investigation of tangible criminal conduct, through what is evidence of their spiritual condition, that they're demons. They're very embarrassed by that. That's why you have the entity harassing. They're embarrassed that they're using a whole body of government to target one person. Very embarrassing. This is the entity that's engaging in that conduct in the face of what is that specific environment, okay? That's the P.O.C. All right, the entity is engaging in what is targeting, making U-turns over the Ontario Town Square. This is the Ontario Police stalking by helicopter while they're targeting in the environment under the fake moon and flying away from me is called stalking in the path. The amplified plane activity is the same P.O.C. Let me show you the evidence of the Ontario International Airport stalking. There's the fake sun. It is not the direction that you're flying. It is aerial surveillance of that targeted individual who is being targeted through the environment, not based on the direction that the demon is flying the plane and or helicopter. Those are the unintelligent demons that are proven to be stalking, because the fake sun remains over me at this same property at 1 o'clock in the afternoon when that same airport flying miles away to engage in a U-turn, where the fake sun is over me and they are stalking. That's what the Ontario Police are doing when on this same street, the fake moon is over me and the demons of the Ontario Police monitoring my devices are gang stalking by helicopter. And they think in their minds, they surmise you can fly in the opposite direction, and that's directly rebutting the evidence that you're targeting, because you're not flying toward the target individual. You're flying around the target individual. You're flying away from the target individual. It's stalking in the path, just like being in the path, walking out of Chevron and you're across the street going in and out of Starbucks with impossible light. Just like walking in and out of the Starbucks with impossible light, moving across the ceiling underneath an impossible circumstance. That's the evidence of stalking. Those are the imbeciles that are going to be both committed and convicted. This is impossible light. Just want you to see that. Manifesting in the shade, where the Ontario Town Square is a crime scene. This is ongoing demonic pacing. This is the evidence of mental illness. And this is the same exact criminal purpose. P.O.C. This is the same exact criminal purpose. Flying a U-turn, gang stalking. Flying straight across, gang stalking. Flying miles away from the airport. This level of audible activity is not occurring from a takeoff. And you're taking off from the airport, Terminals 2 and Terminal 4. You're also doing so while it's not published. Southwest Airlines flights are not including flying miles away into engaging what is hovering. Takeoff, there will already be higher in elevation. You wouldn't even hear it. And they're also doing it under the fake sun that's still here, as you know, 12, well, yes, in the afternoon, 12, but also after 6 p.m., where the entity is stalking me. And this fake sun is shining through the entrance of that OVITT Family Community Library. That's what's so intelligent by unintelligent, well, let's be facetious, so intelligent about engaging in a U-turn, and it's the same targeting conduct. You'll see the tactic of the Ontario Police. That's not a tactic. That's an imbecile that doesn't understand that everybody knows that they're demons and that they're focusing on me. They're doing so in a crime scene, showing that they're all demons. These are the gang stalking Jehovah's Witnesses, P.O.C. The gang stalking patrons of Wells Fargo, P.O.C. The gang stalking demons of the people of the state. Impossible light moving across the wall, moving underneath the structure of Starbucks while they're stalking with light with the Ontario International Airport under a fake sun. This is P.O.C. It is currently 8:25 a.m. Alrighty, that's the entity that's engaging in that conduct regarding what are the elements of monitoring. It's not based on the direction that the plane is flying. The entity engages in what is stalking with impossible. Stalking, let me be clear. The entity engages in stalking with impossible light activity in the absence of any vehicle. For example, the entity has tried to associate, the light activity occurs as a vehicle drives by. The entity is engaged in this ongoing demonic behavior in the absence of any vehicle driving by. The purpose of the vehicles driving by is for monitoring. They're demons, and that's why it's occurring in the absence of any vehicle driving by. And you're seeing what is the core purpose. Crossing path is happening while a demon is sitting across from me on the opposite side of the street, and that same exact impossible light activity is occurring while a demon is flying in the sky space, and that same impossible light activity is occurring. When you are driving at a distance away from me, your headlights and no sunlight is reflecting. That's the entity. That's again engaging in the same purpose. In that same manner, the entity's pattern of conduct, this is, again, the entity that has, not only are they demons, they are absolutely inferior in every regard. Common sense is showing that a takeoff is not going to occur over Ontario Town Square, number one, before we even get into the demonic. And the demonic is relevant with regard to malice. That's why, okay? But the demonic is relevant with regard to the false illusion. Not only is it an illusion, it's an unintelligent one. You are not flying over 224 North Euclid Avenue from the Ontario Airport Drive terminals and still hovering over buildings in Ontario. That means you never engaged in a takeoff. And you are clearly targeting, moreover, in the environment where the sun is still present over that same target individual, regardless of whether they have Down syndrome, by the way. It's not relevant. And it's not going to come up in the case against the state. It's legally irrelevant. It's a basis of, it's legally irrelevant. It will not be coming up because the government is going to be prosecuted for targeting, and it's clear evidence of targeting, including via the demonic. And no pilot is able to reconcile what is flying miles, a takeoff from the airport, and then flying miles over the defendant's house over and over and over again. Why are you flying over the defendant's hotel room? How is that incorporated in the airports, which we understand are occurring within this airspace, within this radius, at this elevation? And it is also understood that it would create this level of what is disturbance in the environment. You're way outside of that zoning. Why are you flying over the target individual's hotel room? And you're doing that throughout the city. Every hotel room that they're occupying, you are engaged in what is flight over, even over what is the target individual's front door. That's Tracy Banks, the entity stalking with Ontario International Airport, the entity that is very unintelligent. There's a body of evidence, super amplified plane activity flying over Tracy Banks' front door, because that's what the audible activity is creating, as though you're taking off, and that's going to be heard inside of Tracy Banks' apartment 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Also, when I open the front door, fake sun shining. It's so bright you can barely see it. The camera has to adjust because that's how low the fake sun is, and the amplified plane activity when demons are hostile and they engage in that documented act of aggression, which is a threat to your life and your well-being. This is all on the record. They are clearly targeting, and they're clearly targeting with demons that defame your character, because the demons, again, very unintelligent, think that if they fly in the opposite direction, then that means that's sufficient on its surface that they're not targeting you. You're looking at that fake sun. They're flying in circles across the street. Guess who they're stalking? They're stalking me while the fake sun is over me, and it's over me when they stop flying in a circle and they fly off. And that fake sun doesn't do this, it does the same thing that it does with me. When I move, that fake sun moves. When they move, that fake sun stays over me. When everybody else moves, that fake sun stays over me. In fact, it stays until the end of the day. We're at that same location, that fake sun sets, where the entity is engaged in an ongoing pattern of stalking, targeting in that environment, no matter what direction you're flying or driving. And under no circumstances is sunlight ricocheting above your head, to the side, inside of the building, inside of the cars, creating multiple shadows, creating shadows above you. All of that is speaking to what is demonic. It's legally relevant because the government is practicing that. With regard to psychologically torturing while they're stalking you, and they don't have a defense, and it's very intelligent when they engage in flying in the opposite direction, which is stalking in the path. Standing and being at the gas stall while I walk outside while I'm walking inside of the Chevron, stalking in the path. Walking, getting out of your vehicle, walking into Starbucks while I'm walking out of the Chevron, stalking in the path. Not facing me, not addressing me. You don't have to. Where's the fake sun? It's over me at Chevron. Where's the fake sun in the evening? It's over me at Chevron. That's the entity that's stalking. In a very clear environment. This is an entity that has relied on the superficial, relied on the veil, piercing through that. And you're going to federal prison for that level of malice, acting in furtherance with a population, stalking in the most incredible manners using planes and helicopters. And you don't even have any sort of intelligent response other than making a U-turn. And what does that have to do with what you're publishing on the website regarding landings and takeoffs that are published on schedule? What passengers are you taking on a field trip engaging in U-turns? Just a common sense question when they're documenting what they don't have any defense for, targeting me throughout the city with commercial planes, smaller government planes, and helicopters, in a readily identifiable environment, which even includes the defendant Tracy Banks' apartment. It is absolutely legally irrelevant regarding the state of the target individuals. Even if they've been diagnosed, you could say that they have Down syndrome or something, osteoporosis and Down syndrome. The entity will be prosecuted for targeting. It is absolutely legally irrelevant. Does it matter? And obviously that's common sense. Why does it matter if I have a crooked spine if you are stalking me and the evidence is proving that you're stalking? That's you. Yeah, that's you. And I went there and there's you again. And I went there and there's you again. And I went there and there you are again. You're stalking. It is legally irrelevant regarding osteoporosis, regarding what is Down syndrome, regarding even something like paranoid schizophrenia, where the entity is definitely relying on that. There's no paranoia when that paranoid schizophrenic diagnosed has the evidence. They're not too paranoid because they documented stalking. They're not imagining that when you have the hard evidence of stalking. The entity does not have any defense, and so they're engaging what is going through the ongoing cycles. You're stalking me day and night. Stalking. Targeting. That's synonymous with stalking. They are stalking. They're literally following while I'm showing you that fake sun. You're stalking while you're making a U-turn. These are demons that are very highly unintelligent. Very highly unintelligent. And that's why they engage in acts of violence and making themselves laugh at what's not even funny, because they're telling themselves like, oh, we're going to seize a moment here and we're going to humiliate the target individual while we're all stalking her. And we're very mad because she's been documenting and embarrassing us on the internet. You're stalking. This is the entity that's engaging in this conduct, and they're going to prison under all circumstances for kidnapping, for criminally defaming my character, because criminal defamation is what this system rests on. And it starts with the stalkers of the Ontario Police Department in Ontario, where I've been subject to a series of kidnappings. Everything starts with the Ontario Police Department. They have to summon them. All right. The police are then that are gang stalking. They have to rely on the malice of the people of the state. And the Ontario police are equally malicious. They know that it's lies about the character of the target individual, about the so-called allegations that the target individual committed. And you've seen example after example of that. They're lying, talking about I molested a child. They're lying, talking about I'm harassing somebody. And I documented the entire day. There's no molestation, not even in an encounter with any child. This is why you document demons, because you're dealing with Satan. Satan is the father of lies. I'm aware of that. But this is also why you see me not giving any respect to demons. They're not respectable, and I'm not going to respect you while you are engaging in what is absolutely despicable, like disgusting. And then on top of that, the specific details. You want to be revered as an authority figure, or you want to be revered and respected as a man. I will attack both of those illusions. I will. And that's what you see me doing. Okay. And the demons are very much intimidated. What I've just rattled out right now, that's exactly why demons are intimidated. And what do? Having no defense, they engage in more of this idiotic conduct. Stalking. This is how I get the entity stalking. You understand the body of evidence that I have acquired? 27 planes stalking over and over and over again, because the entities think they're engaging in magic. They're engaging in witchcraft, first of all. Second, and it doesn't work. Second of all, I'm accumulating evidence that you're targeting me. And that's evidence that they committed years ago. They haven't even thought about that. While they're still engaged in the same pattern, they haven't thought about that. They forgot about stuff that they did. It's sitting on the record, and it's a conformity to a pattern of conduct. They forgot all about it. But you're not going to forget about it because it's on the record for a reason. And that in and of itself, the entity has been prosecuted for years. So at the same time, the entity's in courts that I'm not present in, that I know nothing about, defaming my character, about property that I don't know nothing about. And you thought that just calling me names and then stalking me and then making up, oh no, we're not stalking, she's mentally ill. That's literally the plan. That's the plan. We're going to state that she's crazy. We're going to go into court and swear by it. And then we're going to stalk her, and then we're just going to deny that we're stalking her. And that's how we're going to have her kidnapped for being mentally ill. And we're going to run off with her money. And that's the government. It's also the government, while the people of the state, remember, the government relies on, in the same way criminal summoning operates, they rely on the people of the state to be the ones that are in need of their presence, of their assistance. Jason Isaac Fields is a state actor. Well, actually, he's a corrupt federal official. But with regard to the system, generally speaking, the state, the government, that's what I mean by that. But it's not literally, he's a corrupt federal official. So that's the U.S. government that's acting via the state. The U.S. government, the pattern of conduct, as I've made a very simple definition. The public entity is not like with regard to the ordinary definition. The public entity is typically referring to like a municipality, a state, a city. The public entity is with regard to any level of government. It's not unique to the only municipality, a city, or that county. It's speaking to any level of government based on the pattern of conduct. The public entity is one that's acting at federal, state, local level, any level. It's the government itself. All right, that's the state actor. And the entities engaged in targeting through the population. Any and every, and I've shown the pattern of conduct is through all. This is exposing surveillance that's underway in the United States, period. So this is why you have what is public corruption. When everybody's engaged in surveillance, that's corruption. Surveillance is unconstitutional. You're engaging in surveillance while you're maintaining a bank. You're engaged in surveillance while you're maintaining public transportation. You're maintaining surveillance while you operate an airport. You're maintaining surveillance while you operate a police department. You're maintaining surveillance that is facilitated by that police department that commits kidnappings to make sure that they continuously engage in uninterrupted surveillance, going around bullying people outside of their constitutional rights, outside of what the law dictates that they have the authority to do, and that American citizens are entitled to, that the benefits that they enjoy. The entity's engaging in surveillance. You're engaging in surveillance when you're on the street. This is what the fake sun is, the engineered light. They're operating and controlling devices, knowing everything that you're doing on your cell phone, on your laptop, on your iPad, with your iWatch and your Google necklace and your eyeglasses. It's surveillance in that environment. All is under surveillance. It's not the natural environment, and they are aware of everything that's going on in your devices, and they are doing so, they being the government, and again, more detail, they are demons. The concoction of a whole fake sun, that's the government that's engaging in sick things like maintaining the Truman Show. And doing so while the people of the state are engaging in what is stalking as a population. And then you have the demons that are harassing. And this is why they're getting excited, because they feel as though the Truman Show is going to be entertaining tonight, because we surrounded her with our cell phones and cackling like demons lacking any brain. It was very disturbing what those demons were doing, because there was not one funny joke. And there was nothing actually funny there. Actually, I was the one that was actually being funny with regard to talking about his girlfriend looking like a man. She's taller than him. His socks and his shoes were yellow. They're supposed to be white. And he's actually answering my questions. This is a clown. And they're very much triggered because I am prosecuting them, and I'm sitting on top of what's supposed to be something that was supposed to destroy me. It's not destroying me with regard to my character, number one. And it's also not destroying me while I'm prosecuting you. And I am hence unbothered, essentially, when you're looking at me, confronting what is not a man, and also confronting what are not authority figures. These are all cockroaches. They're all stalking together, engaging in surveillance. It is public corruption, and I'm showing you how every area of society is engaged in what is public corruption. And this is something that the FBI is not investigating with regard to the FBI's engagement in criminal surveillance. So you do have hypocrisy there. There's certain types of public corruption that they're investigating, but they're not investigating the public corruption that they are engaged in, which is surveillance. So I want to be clear. The entity that's engaged in criminal conduct in concert with the government, that's what the definition of public corruption. It is that which is occurring through the civilian population in concert with the government itself. It's relevant to what is violating laws, criminal surveillance. The entity's doing that with the government proper and the people of the state who are also the government. This is the public entity that's surrounding. You're engaging in what is crossing a path on behalf of the police while you're inside of your home, keeping the target individual surrounded, while everyone's engaging in surveilling that targeted individual. And everything you say intentionally with regard to monitoring. Everything you do intentionally with regard to monitoring. That's not a private property. The public entity is there vicariously. None of that is private property, and none of them are protected by the Constitution. None of it's private speech. In other words, the government does not have a First Amendment private speech. The government is a public entity. Those are the benefits of what are individuals protected under the Constitution. The government has stepped into the role of what is surveillance with the civilian population, who have entirely stripped themselves by virtue of gang stalking, by virtue of this surveillance system that all of them are underway, that all of them are engaging in it as it's underway. They have removed themselves from the protections of the Constitution regarding free speech in doing so. And the entity, again, nobody's engaged in that type of legal analysis, but that's the reality. Those are the legal implications, and that's the reality under the law. And not only that, they're not thinking deep into that at all. They're engaged in what is a corrupt system of stalking people, keeping them under surveillance. Nobody's thinking about, they know that it's criminal, but nobody's thinking in depth about the constitutional implications regarding criminal surveillance. And what does this mean about our constitutional? Nobody's sitting around pontificating about that. These are demons, they're criminals, they're engaging in what is surveillance, and they have never sat back and thought about what they don't have the right to do anymore, what they're not protected by anymore, what they're not authorized to do either, until I tell them that which they're also very hostile to. So this is why you have clowns that jump out in the middle of the night, a whole group excited, we finally got her, okay, everybody aim their phones now, 1, 2, 3, and let's laugh and call her a B over and over again. Those are the demons that are very much embarrassed by the exposure that I, as one person that was supposed to be written off as crazy, and how these type of imbeciles having the audacity to try to defame me. That's what's so laughable about it. These are demons these are imbeciles, literally. 2 + 2 is a challenge. You fly in the opposite direction, and that's all you got with regard to you're not stalking me? Oh, we're not stalking because we flew in the opposite direction? The entity's, okay, the entity's engaging, the entity is totally unprepared. Okay? The entity is engaging in this conduct, and this is relevant to what is massive corruption because of surveillance that is pervasive. There is no area of society, in other words, that is not engaging in and is not under surveillance. That's contrary to the illusion of police departments and the privacies provided by the Constitution and lawful investigations regarding criminal conduct that the government does not know about, that they have to have reported to them, or a crime has to occur before then they're able to engage in what is an investigation, collect facts and information so that they can accrue what is authority under the law to gain warrants and intrude upon people's property rights under the authority of the law. All of that's an illusion. All of it. They use those illusions to cover up what is surveillance. And they know what's going on with regard to criminal conduct. They're engaging in it. They're engaging in it. These demons are gang members. LAPD engages in what is targeting gang members. For example, Crips and Bloods, they control those gang members because they wear police badges, and they're the ones that have all the arsenal to engage in what is murdering them. They murder the gang members, and they get away with it because they're called LAPD. Those are the worst gang members ever. They get away with murdering Crips and Bloods and just stating up. You know, we had a gang affiliated death. They killed each other, actually, and it's LAPD. They're the gang members that committed murder, and they get away with it. It's state-sanctioned murder. Just giving you a hypothetical. The demons that are stalking, flying in helicopter, terrorizing the so-called Crips and Bloods, they're engaging in terrorizing them, intimidating them, bullying them, and they can shoot them dead at any time they want just because they're a Crip or a Blood. That doesn't mean that they've committed a crime on that day when they were shot in the head by LAPD, who then lied and said it was another rival gang. While they're engaging in surveillance, by the way, not talking about that. That's what they do. That's why the entities engaged in this conduct, gang stalking with puppets. They're all scared. They're all engaged in what is, there are those that are complicit because they're just demons and they're puppets. And there are those that are puppets because they're scared. Because that's what gang members do. That's what LAPD, that's what Ontario PD is about. They're going to be prosecuted and disbanded, though. They're being disbanded. What they committed last night, stalking by helicopter, a bunch of demons circling around me, doing so on Euclid and E. And the entity engaged, as I document that violence by a bunch of boys. Those were boys surrounding a girl. Understand, the girl, that's me. I'm a grown woman. I'm not a girl, but those are all boys surrounding me. And they're doing so with regard to what is engaging in what is a whole bunch of boys that feel inferior to me. They know exactly who I am, and they're doing so on behalf as gang members with the Ontario Police Department. Those gang members are on, I showed you the video, I captured it, but I also provided detailed analysis, excuse me, in the form of, somebody doesn't want me speaking, and I bind it in the name of Jesus. The entity in the form of, the analysis is in the form of what are screenshots. The entity stalking at that environment, the intersection, where the violence is occurring through the gang members who are the people of the state. All of their harassing epithets, all of their insults is audible activity. You can see the engineer light while those demons are jumping up and down and laughing and holding up their cell phones. These are demon-possessed people who are celebrating what is their demonic behavior while they're engaging in criminal conduct on behalf of the gang members that fly in a circle over that act of violence as gang members together in helicopter and repeatedly cross path on by vehicle. They're doing so while the entities engaging in violence together. This is what they do. Understand that that was a PG-rated version of violence that these gang members commit together. Like I stated last night in my lengthy discussion, the entity engages in what is murdering people together with the police. And the police, who are demons, sharing in such sacrifices, just like I stated, because this is what they do. You witness the evidence of it. They're gang stalking. The evidence is, oh, he's not just mad because I took his picture. This demon went to the bank to gang stalk me. He knew where I was at. And he also knows that I document. He went there looking for what is some sort of incident, wanting some sort of attention, because that's what I garner, by the way. That's what I garner. I garner attention. And you're doing so by you are embarrassed while you're being gang stalked. That's what the ongoing, what you are embarrassed as a midget with a thick neck and yellow mildew socks and shoes. And I call that out while you are supposedly the one that's in some position of being superior while you're stalking me. That doesn't even make any sense. What type of stalker is superior to the targeted individual? You're stalking me. How are you superior as a police department who was stalking me? You use all your resources for little old me. That shows that I am the important person, not you. This is an entity that is engaging in that, but that's the false logic behind demons who are, again, dark spirits who are very much intimidated by who they know that I am. And they're using these people who are losers. That's why they're at that level, to be used by Satan to this degree. Whether you have that level of what is behavioral health concerns, behavioral issues, behavioral patterns that are shared, while they're engaging in conduct, that's an army of demons that are pacing an engineer light under the fake sun, led by what is plane activity, helicopter activity. Right there is amplified motorcycle activity. And they do so when I say things that they're very much triggered by. Every time I say something that they're embarrassed by, the entity engages in that. Nonetheless, moving on. The entity is engaged in this conduct, and while they are surrounding me with a bunch of boys, you're engaging in what is coming to where you know that I'm at, state surveillance. Everyone is monitoring my vagina. Everyone's monitoring every word that I state. They sit around as demons, very passive aggressive, very hostile regarding every syllable that I utter, lining up with regard to what are demons that accumulate in numerosity based on, again, spiritually speaking, the demon possessed are very much intimidated. You're not dealing with just boys that are not men. You're dealing with demonic spirits that are inferior. There's an inferiority, excuse me. It's early in the morning. An inferiority complex, excuse me. All right. There's an inferiority complex, and it's rooted in the spiritual. These are demons. These are puppets, spiritually inferior, okay? That's why they're also engaged in what is gang stalking. I told you, this is the reality. Demons, they act in packs. The demons are very much inferior to me, very fearful of my abilities, and that was also that thirsty, and by thirsty I mean that overly anxious and uncharacteristically enthusiastic and very weird and random rapid accumulation of persons all engaged in the same thing. They all come in with their cell phones already out, okay, and these are all people that are claiming that they're strangers and that they're not gang stalking me, that they don't know who I am, that they're not targeting. The entities engaged in that conduct, those are demon possessed people, and they are focused on me, and they are also demons that are inferior, intimidated by me, and they typically use the vessels of boys that are intimidated by who I am. You're understanding the purpose of that, because these, like I pointed out before, this is relevant to what is spiritual authority. This is relevant to what is spiritual power, and the demon possessed, particularly of the male species, they're very much intimidated by what it is that I am, what I'm doing and what I've done, and what they typically are able to do to other people. And as I'm showing you the absence of any brain power in engaging in what is a U-turn with the plane, you're stalking. Let me show you the fake sun. Engaging in what is flying in the opposite direction with the helicopter, you're stalking. Let me show you the fake moon. Let me show you this impossible light activity over here, which is directly relevant to what is flying miles away over the Ontario Town Square from an airport where Southwest Airlines is not engaging in what is a perpetual takeoff, not rising in elevation, hovering over 224 North Euclid Avenue. There's no mystery at all. There's no mystery whatsoever. The entity is very much intimidated because over millions of them, I have shown what they are, demons, shown their criminal conduct, and it's surveillance. Very specific monitoring. They're monitoring spirits, and they're very much intimidated by who I am. And they thought that they were going to be able to kill me. And by kill me, I mean they were going to do hoo, no hands, hoodoo, voodoo, no hands. Meaning I was just going to come up missing, doing so by the work of witchcraft. Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields' sex rituals, while they went around spreading HIV to each other. The entity that's engaged in with this failed witchcraft is speaking to what, again, another basis of them being embarrassed. Listen to my videos that I captured at 8:47 and 8:49. These demons are very much embarrassed by while I expose them with regard to what are facts. You're going around with infected genitalia, and you thought that your sex rituals, your witchcraft was going to stop me. And I wake up vital and healthy and ready every single day, every day. And I'm not going anywhere. And you're going to prison, though. You're going to federal prison. And not only that, you're mad because you remember that I told you that years ago, and you thought it was a game. You thought it was funny because you're a psychopath. Because you have the spirit of a psychopath on you, literally demons, where your mental illness resides, and it affects your behavior. It affects your decision making. It affects how your mind operates or doesn't operate, because you were warned. And you engaged in providing me a body of evidence, not just 2025, not just today and yesterday, not just this week, a body of evidence showing how every level of government is targeting, which is speaking to unprecedented means of what is justice, and establishing, meaning proving to everyone in this country, relevant to what other countries are doing to American citizens, relevant to what the United States government is doing to American citizens throughout this country. And criminal surveillance is present, is ongoing, ceaselessly underway. The entity is engaging in that conduct, and that's relevant to that P.O.C. Okay, the entity is doing so under any and all guises: business, religion, school fairs, education, travel. It doesn't matter what it is. Interstate commerce, going from state to state. All means of aerial surveillance, all means of using the roads and the highways, the channels of interstate commerce, the trains. All of it is serving a demonic system. You are always engaging in the elements of audible activity, light activity, and you are always stalking in the path the demons are always surrounding. And they do so from state to state, because you're not dealing with people that are physically related to, nor is it required when they're being present in your path. When I'm in Arizona, and I've only been there, for example, for my first time, I've been to Tucson, Arizona one time, but I'm just going to use it as an example. When I go to Arizona for the first time, I've never been to Mesa, Arizona, for example. That's legally irrelevant to establish gang stalking. Gang stalking is not traditional stalking, meaning somebody that knows you is stalking, or somebody that's been following you around is very specifically stalking you. Okay, following from place to place. Gang stalking is established in an environment where the entity is, as a population, is always maintaining presence. And while I'm in Mesa, Arizona, and I'm at the Circle K, and the entity has the fake sun over me in Mesa, Arizona, at that Circle K, from, let's just say they have a cafe, and I sit at that Circle K enjoying my Arizona tea for 4 hours, and I capture that fake sun over me at 11 in the morning, and that fake sun is still there 12, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's still there over me. It hasn't moved, but you're looking at traffic. They're moving. The fake sun's not moving. And the environment is not such that everybody is looking at the same thing that I'm looking at. The fake sun is stationary over me. The fake sun is only dynamic when I'm moving. And everybody else that is moving around me has that same experience. That is not the case. Demons that are driving from Ontario to Orange County today, they're doing so while a fake sun is remaining stationary over me in Ontario at the Ontario Town Square. Okay? So those are the untenable positions regarding the clear distinction between the targeted individual, who is also being targeted by the government directly, while being targeted by the entity directly and vicariously, stalking, which is proven in an environment. And in Mesa, Arizona, 4 hours at the Circle K, and they have a cafe in there. I just made that up. I've never been into I don't think they have that, but I'm just making up brands as I go, stating, establishing a duration of time in a place that I haven't been before. And the entity keeps that fake sun over me. And the entity is engaging in what is maintaining that light source. Guess how you're stalking? You're stalking while you're working at the Circle K. You're stalking as customers at that Circle K. You're stalking as what is maintaining public transportation on the bus stop outside of the Circle K. You're stalking as a means of aerial surveillance over and around that Circle K, while you are under no circumstances you don't know anybody. I don't know anybody in Mesa, Arizona. I'm not going there to visit. I just have money to go, money to prosecute the state and show you how California is gang stalking me. And I'll go to Mesa, Arizona, and show you the fake sun that will remain over me in that cafe for the duration of the day. And all of the demon-possessed know exactly who you are. And that is exceeding state lines. You're dealing with the spiritual realm. Demons throughout this country know exactly who I am, and they also know who I am because I put the Nephilim on the map. And that's what's behind the pathetic show that you saw last night of demons that know that they're losers. That's what that was about. Because even, not only in the spiritual realm is that pathetic, but also in the physical, because what you're seeing are a bunch of boys circled around a woman, and you would look at that like, what are they doing? What are they doing? Even under circumstances where you're ignorant about the P.O.C., if you're angry about again, this demon is legitimately angry. I'm not arguing that. You're angry because you're being documented and you're being prosecuted. Oh yeah, they're angry about that. But if you are not engaging in the P.O.C., take the P.O.C. out, and you are being harassed and inexplicable targeting, and this is totally untenable. But I'm going to go ahead and concede the point to make a point here regarding what the boys are doing that are gang stalking. And you are being annoyed while you're at the ATM and you're focused on the ATM and you're not focused on somebody else. It requires that as well, that you're not focused on that person. But it's not like I'm not coming up toward him, causing you to be aware when you're at the ATM, paying attention who's coming up close, and none of that's happening. I'm on my phone. They're paying very close attention to that. But if you're not, and you're not paying close attention to what it is that I'm stating, it doesn't concern you, and you're in your mind thinking about how much money you're taking off, you're thinking about what's your PIN number, you're thinking about what you're about to do with your girlfriend while you're minding your business. This is an entity that's engaging in what is still behavior that on its surface is illogical, that doesn't make it, and it's unnatural. Okay, this is an entity that's engaging in what is, if somebody is taking your picture, first of all, what is it that they're, I didn't get your PIN number. I am not engaging in what is touching or harming you, and this is an entity that's engaging in far too much attention to me. They maintain presence, and you'll pay attention in that video when I state he's still here. He's still here. That's when he hops in his car, because he realizes that he is clearly giving me way too much attention for somebody he claims is just annoying him and taking his picture. So why are you stating for more pictures to be taken? And why did you then garner a whole audience? And that audience was readily available, and they all had their cell phones handy. That's fascinating to me? And they're doing so in the specific environment. They're jumping up and down and laughing, and you can see the sick light activity. Their light activity, their shadow reaching out from their shoes, like a deck of their shadows in all directions, to the left, to the right, and to the center, 3 of them, while they're jumping up and down and laughing, while he's walking by the vehicles. His upright shadow, 2 of them moving across the white pickup truck. The entity stalking with impossible light while they're jumping up and down and holding their cell phones. Yeah, holding up gang signs. Yeah, this is gangster. They're demons. And it's very icky conduct, actually. They remind me of like does that are filled up with pus-filled cockroaches. If you were to cut them open, cockroaches would spill out. That's what you're dealing with. They're demons. They're dead. And that behavior is dead. And these are, spiritually speaking, these are demons that are very much intimidated by me, and they're overly anxious, and even claiming that you are being bothered by somebody that's taking your picture. Man, you need to leave me alone and mind your business. A grown man is going into, what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to, and what did he do? So what are you going to do? You get in your car, you're minding with your lady, all right? They're both demons and they're both obsessed with my vagina. But this is, again, the normal. Somebody like myself, if you're taking a picture of me and I'm at the ATM, well, that's a different set of facts, because you're gang stalking me. We don't have the same position under the law. And that's also not a matter of my figment of anyone's imagination, nor mine. It's not the same thing when they're holding up their cell phones and when I'm holding up my cell phone. But they'll be prosecuted under the law. This is the entity that's engaged in that, however. And they're doing so while they are making themselves tell each other, yeah, this is funny, this is funny. No, it's not. No, it's not. And this is also no victory. They look like on the surface a bunch of boys that's centered around a female that they're all intimidated by. And they're all giving a lot of undue attention for what they claim is the reason. Okay, I certainly do not center around a homeless person and focus in on them. And I don't do that. I don't give a homeless person, that is the last person on my mind, to give all of that attention to. You need to understand what is actually going on here. These are demons, and I've shown you in every way, not only the P.O.C. and the evidence of criminal monitoring, surveillance, but also through their behavior, which is totally unnatural. You're dealing with the demon possessed who are very much bothered by my identity. They're very much bothered by my spiritual authority, my ability to discern them and also prosecute them with words that you understand, with laws that exist, and create laws to prosecute the Nephilim, who think that they can use their hoodoo voodoo and act in a manner that you don't see right in front of your face. This is what feeds their illusion regarding their ego, and their ego is totally shattered in my presence. That's what you're dealing with, is Satan, who's intimidated and envious and also obsessed with me. 8GUF015. That's what you're dealing with there. And you are engaging in very unintelligent conduct. And I exposed you years ago. They're going to be in a courtroom experiencing how, like I said, I triumphed over these demons years ago. The Ontario police, the evidence is proving it's years ago. It's way before 2025. Criminal targeting, which is criminal. Targeting conduct that I am documenting that this entity committed, and they engage in it over and over and over again. I've already proven it. In 2025, this is a surplusage of evidence. of a population that is indeed engaging in what is surveillance, and it's corruption because surveillance is criminal, and it's criminal while it's also happening with a population. This is unprecedented means of violation of your Fourth Amendment rights by the government, who's doing it through the people of the state, with the people of the state. They're the ones that are violating your privacy on top of that. That's not even contemplated under the Constitution. And that conspiracy targeting you together is also established in the specific environment. They're acting right in sync with the demons in helicopter. What do those little boys that are surrounding me last night do? They're engaging gang stalking. Who starts the gang member that starts flying in helicopter over my head? They're speaking as the state. They're present as the state. They're harassing as the state. It's an illusion with regard to the police helicopter and vehicle and uniform and badge and weapons with regard to the demons that are the same corrupt entity speaking as. That's basically, put it in these terms, a gang stalker. That's a police officer, and this is putting it in the context of traditional stalking, not gang stalking, which is a population and entity. But just so that you can understand the malice, this is tantamount to a police officer that's stalking me. All right, and that's unfathomable. Not based on some relationship, not because I was dating him and he hasn't gotten over me, and he just happened to be a police officer and I broke up with him and he's stalking me. No, he's stalking me. I don't know him. I haven't committed any crime, so it's not an investigation. It's totally surveillance. He's doing so while he's on the job as a police officer. He's doing so while he's off the clock as a citizen of the city. He is stalking. Okay, while he's wearing his uniform, that is on the job. He's crouching behind a building across the street where I don't know where he's at. And he is sending in another person to come and take pictures of me. He's sending in somebody else. Hey, I'm going to give you $25. Just do me a favor and go take pictures of this girl over here. This is what she looks like. I need you to take pictures of her. Can you just go rough her up a little bit more? Can you just call her out her name? Tell her that she's wearing a wig. Talk about the fact that she's homeless. Tell her that she's dumb. Tell her that she's ugly. Tell her anything that comes to your mind. I just need you to say all these things to her and then take pictures of it. And then just sit there and laugh. And then I need you to do that for a couple of days, okay? And this police officer is paying multiple people to do that while he is never in my presence. So I don't even know that it's the police that's stalking me while he's paying other people to engage in what is harassing me. And it is the entity that's doing it on behalf of that police officer, okay? I'm giving you a hypothetical when you're looking at, it's the state that is stalking you that's sitting at the Ontario Town Square. It's the state that is stalking that is flying in Delta Airline planes. It's the state that is stalking wearing Securitas uniforms on the job. It's the state that's engaging what is crossing path in thousands of vehicles on Euclid Avenue in front of me. It's the state that's engaging what is working inside of the OVITT Family Community Library, maintaining presence all around me. It's the state that's going into the bathroom to be next to me, to maintain ongoing audible noise and presence and engineered light that's inside of that bathroom. That's the state that's doing so via the people, where you're not supposed to, on the surface, even make an association with the police. But that's exactly who is stalking and monitoring you. And they're demons. That police officer that's paying people is a demon, and the people that he's paying are demons. So they're not just engaging in what is stalking and harassing you, following you around. They're demons that are monitoring you. That's the entity's pattern of conduct. It's just that it's multiplied because it's not one police officer, it's the agency. And the agency doesn't have to, you're dealing with the demonic. They don't have formal meetings where there's evidence of them ever having an association. You're dealing with demons. They are in the spirit, engaging what are having sex rituals, calling them a meeting amongst the third degree Masons, where they're engaging what is calling their church harvest. They're harvesting demonic spirits. They're harvesting with regard, they don't mean harvest with regard to any biblical term. It's harvest very satanic with regard to harvesting off of American citizens that they're spiritually attacking as a demonic population. And that police department is a part of that population. License plate 8UIM525. This is an entity that's engaged in that, and that's giving you the malice behind gang stalking. They're all state actors. They're all acting on behalf of the state. In other words, that's what that's the scenario I'm describing for you when I'm telling you, so that you can understand the purpose of what gang stalking is. They are supposed to appear as private citizens like the target individual. They're not. They're targeting in the same way that the entity is that's recognized as the government under the Constitution, that is governed by and limited by the Fourth Amendment. Okay, the Equal Protection Clause, the Sixth Amendment Clause. All right, the entity is engaging in what is gang stalking through the people of the state, and they are, based on the malice of that system, they're not protected under the Constitution. That's the malice of the whole purpose of gang stalking in the first place, so that they can be in your home, keeping you under surveillance. That's how Jonathan Burnett is able to pull out his cell phone and play back on his cell phone when he's making up charges. Oh, what are we going to charge Erica with? I don't know. I have her whole life in my hands, so I'm going to just write out whatever I feel like it. 8S84138, Stalking with Impossible Light. I'm going to write out whatever I feel like it because Erica Spencer's not going to be able to do a darn thing about it. Nobody's going to believe her. That's the entity's mindset. And he pulls out his cell phone because Tracy Banks is the state inside of her apartment, which is a facilitating venue, not a private residence, where she maintains no constitutional protection whatsoever for being prosecuted as a terrorist. It's very easy to document that and prosecute you. It's not it's not a defense, as it is in traditional stalking. You're not going to be prosecuted for stalking where you live at. This is not traditional stalking. It's state surveillance, and they're engaging in surveillance where they live. I've shown that. That's why Tracy has a fake son for the duration of the entire day, never leaving Woodside Senior Apartments. And then they're engaging in what is stalking at the Ontario Town Square. And they presuppose that flying in the opposite direction, engaging in a U-turn, number one, has anything to do with what they're publishing on the Ontario International website. And number two, that's directly rebutting the evidence that you're stalking me amongst everyone else, because that's exactly what they're doing, including while you see them do so as I walk north up Euclid Avenue and south up Euclid Avenue. That's where the planes are, north up Euclid Avenue and south up Euclid Avenue, remaining on the south side of my person, while a fake sun and a fake moon remains on Euclid Avenue. That's what Tracy Banks is doing on the record. That same exact pattern of conduct, by the way. Not a private citizen, not private property, sharing with that whole entire apartment complex, Avanath Capital Management. Yeah, that's the entity that's engaged in that. And the entity is doing so with the state, not as private citizens. That's giving you the context. It's not an individual police officer. It's the department. And that department is letting you know it's the state. It's the entire city. And the entity is requiring and relying upon, in other words, criminal summoning by the people. The entity is relying on what is presence by the people. While the entity keeps the fake sun over that library, they're doing so on behalf of the state surveillance. That is the sex offender that's going in the bathroom having no legitimate interest in your genitalia. And what is the genitalia of children? That's what pedophiles do. That's exactly what's going on. That's what pedophiles do. And this is sexual violence that the people of the state share in. They're engaging in what is surveillance while they're being monitored. They don't mind, though. They're dead spirits. These are sex offenders, keeping each other under surveillance and keeping an American citizen that has not consented to it. I didn't sign my lease to permit Tracy Banks to gang stalk me with the government. I didn't know that the state was living in my apartment up in California. And as soon as I realized that, I filed my 30-day notice and I moved away from her. Oh, there was nothing wrong with me. And Eric Spencer knows that. That's malice. So does Tracy Banks. She knows that as well. It's also relevant that they're gang stalking me. Yeah, they know that. They know. They engaged in trying to defame my character while they're engaging in that pattern of conduct. The entities engaging in this conduct while they're asserting things that are defamatory, while they're engaging in this pattern of conduct with the police who they rely on to commit kidnappings, while they're trying to create a paper trail regarding defamation, trying to create defamation regarding having the ability, when you're exercising authority that you don't have under the law pursuant to surveillance, you have to have had committed a crime, you have to have had engaged in some sort of thing requiring, oh, we're going to do a health check and we're going to kidnap you under the Welfare and Institutions Code. That's what Tracy Banks of Woodside Senior Apartments and Ontario Police committed on May 29, 2025 with Eric Spencer and Tracy Banks and Tommy Allen Banks on August 6, 2019. Okay, Jonathan Burnett kidnapping, pulling out his cell phone, playing back an argument that happened inside of Tracy Banks' apartment because it's not a private property, a private dwelling. It's where the public entity is engaging in criminal surveillance. That's where it's happening, and that's why Jonathan Burnett, number 19993, I believe, or 19999. Jonathan Burnett, I documented him years ago. He's going to federal prison, and his partners are still gang stalking. It could very well be Jonathan Burnett. It doesn't matter. It's the agency that's engaged in state surveillance. The entity that's engaged in what is lying on video, when you see them stating, oh, somebody called us and told us that you're harassing them. Oh, really? When did that happen? Because I was documenting on podcasts, as you heard, the entire time. So when did that harassment happen? And who was that? Who exactly was that? Those are the demons that are pulling out their cell phones and lying and stating that there is harassment going on. Those are the demons that are listening to me dictate. They're going to prison. License 159169. Substantially similar, the vehicle 1220, I believe, stalking at the Ontario town square. Those are the demons that engaged in gang stalking, and they're doing so with the Jehovah's Witnesses. Let me read their license plates. That's the entity that's very fearful as I'm speaking. That's what they did on September 28, 2020. Those are the boys that are very much intimidated by me, and they've engaged in kidnapping over and over again. They're stalking by helicopter last night, over and over again, and they're stalking right now when they're under the fake sun at the Ontario Town Square. They're going to federal prison just for that right there. They're listening to me, and they're very much hostile. Those are demons that are seething, and they want me to shut up. And when they want me to shut up, they commit kidnappings. That's what I've documented this agency doing. 7FLE686, 9DFK437, 9MKU038, 17352R2. And Ontario police are stalking, crossing path, engaging in surveillance. And the moment that I referred to what is kidnapping by Jonathan Burnett, who's going to federal prison, and the entity then engages in what is driving off. But they've been engaged in stalking. I did not stop to refer to that. But this is an entity that's communicating a threat. They were driving, stalking behind on Lemon Avenue, behind the Ontario Town Square. They drove around the perimeter, and then they stop and park on what is Euclid Avenue, right in front of the Ontario Town Square. And they're gang stalking with the rest of the demons. And that's the system of the pattern of conduct. Wells Fargo is not a private company. They're engaged in surveillance, number one. So the creation of federal laws protecting your privacy and your banking, and you are FDIC insured, and you have privacy with regard when you meet with your banker and you make decisions about, and it's all under surveillance. It's all under surveillance. Your money, what it is that you're doing with your money, it's public information. Okay, and the entity, by the way, engages in what is gang stalking people where they surmise that they can target you. You don't know that surveillance is underway. You don't know that the banker is engaged in monitoring. They know how much money you have. And while they're engaging in this secret surveillance system, they engage in very much targeting that person that does not know about surveillance, by the way, cannot prove surveillance is underway, is falsely depicted as being paranoid when the entity is stalking and then denies it, while they're engaging what is wanting to kidnap you and murder you in the first place because they want that money. They know how much money you have. They know what you have in the bank. They're monitoring. The bank is monitoring. Your family members are monitoring. They're trying to set you up with regard to your inability to control that money. They're creating that narrative before they take your life. They're creating that narrative simultaneously while they're gang stalking you so that they can frame you as being crazy. Nobody's stalking her. They're mentally ill. This is what we're talking about, Your Honor. She's not fit. He's not fit to control their property. This is the entity that does so absent the P.O.C. This is what they do to American citizens, and they're demons that do that. And they're demons that are very much intimidated. They know who I am in the spirit. I belong to Christ Jesus. That's why. Because the Holy Spirit fills me. And the Holy Spirit is more powerful than 1,000,000,000,000,000,000 trillion demonic spirits altogether. Okay? That's the entity that's engaging that under the fake sun, doing so under the fake moon, doing so while they're engaging in surveillance of my vagina, doing so while the fake sun rises and sets at one address, which is surrounding that venue for kidnappings occurring. That's the OVITT Family Community Library where I'm at right now. And the entity doing so while they're very much intimidated by everything that I'm stating. The Ontario Police is being disbanded for kidnapping. License IM1N1. I don't think so. This is the African American female, license IMTWIN1, I believe. She's gang stalking with the Ontario Police. And so is Carlos. That's the African American male gang stalking me with the Ontario Police Department in the morning at the Ontario Town Square, fake sun over me, and in the evening after 6 p.m. at the same address, the Ontario Town Square. And he's gang stalking with the Ontario Police Department right now, who are engaging in what is gang stalking with the people at Wells Fargo who are lining up on the sidewalk, all under the fake sun. And this is what the Ontario International Airport is doing, targeting at this venue as well. License plate, pulling up and then reversing, passing up 1, 2, 3, 4 parking spaces, do so. This is pacing. Okay, another black-faced demon monitoring with corrupt law enforcement. License 7NMS236, stalking with the Ontario Police. But this is what the entity is doing. They're not private citizens, and none of it's private property. It's pursuant to what is criminal surveillance. And the entity has engaged in multiple kidnappings while they're engaged. That's what Starbucks and Ocean and Amelia and Patty and everybody that's documented at Starbucks under the 7:15 a.m. fake sun, that's what they're committing with the Ontario Police Department, who rely on summoning by that entity. They're gang stalking together. They're gang stalking, they're incentivized by the state to engage in targeting together. That's how gang stalking police departments operate, a gang stalking corrupt government. That's how that operates. They're going to federal prison. The Ontario Police Department's criminal defamation is acting in sync with Tracy Banks and Eric Spencer's, their criminal defamation. Let me go ahead and document this real quick. Hold on. The entity is engaged in what is, criminal monitoring. stalking at the front of the Ontario Town Square, doing so under the fake sun, gang stalking with Carlos. You'll see him crossing path. Everybody at Wells Fargo is gang stalking. The entity is doing the same thing, by the way, by commercial planes stalking at the Ontario Town Square, where the fake sun is still here. It's the same analysis. That's the evidence of everybody in that environment that's targeting one person. The sun is not moving while the demons on Lemon Avenue are stalking, and I documented that same agency in police vehicles at 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock in the evening over stalking me at the same address. They're going to prison. This is an entity that's engaging what is driving around the perimeter. That's light activity. You'll see the same thing when CMAX, City of Ontario, the demons that are using flashing of lights, they're going around the perimeter creating light activity. You're creating light activity under the fake sun when you're driving, walking, moving, flying through it around the perimeter. It's light activity as well. Okay, it is currently, by the way, while I'm documenting the Ontario police who are stalking all night long by helicopter, and they're stalking right now using the resources of a police department that's going to be disbanded for surveillance and conspiring murder of the American citizen that exposed it, documented it, and then they engaged in repeated kidnappings to obstruct justice. And they're violent sex offenders as well. It's 9:15 a.m. Their police department has no sun. There is no sun over the demons, the cockroaches of the Ontario police that are stalking under the fake sun that's over the police department at 2500 South Archibald. When these demons are engaged in what is ongoing stalking. This is what I documented yesterday at 9:15, where the Ontario International Airport is gang stalking with the City of Ontario, the demons of the Ontario police. So is everybody that's pacing in their private vehicles, in doing so at what is the same address. The only difference is that those are demons that call themselves a police department, and those are demons that are gang stalking in the same exact engineered environment. That is shared by the Ontario Town Square, the City of Ontario gang stalking, the 280 North Lemon Apartments, gang stalking the OVITT Family Community Library, gang stalking the downtown luxury apartments, Sarah's Regis Group, gang stalking Wells Fargo at 240 North Euclid Avenue, documented engaging what is harassment as an entity with that agency, the Ontario Police Department, gang stalking. The fake sun is over the Ontario Police Department right now. As I documented in the beginning of this month, October, after this entity committed kidnapping at this venue while they're keeping me under surveillance, stalking, and then making up what is audible activity about me harassing when I spoke to no one. But even when I'm speaking to them and what I'm documenting, the entity is engaged in what is harassing me, including while they're maintaining the public nuisance of stalking in planes and helicopters at this venue, doing so under the fake sun that is shining through the doors of that library at 6 o'clock in the evening, where the Ontario police are again by science proven to be stalking. They are on Lemon Avenue, 4 o'clock. And at 6 o'clock, stalking at the same Ontario Town Square. S. Patty, 2022, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, gang stalking at the Ontario Town Square. All three documented. That's federal prison, including the demons that are doing so as a whole cockroach-infested, demon-possessed agency with a fake sun over that criminal headquarters of a surveillance agency, not a law enforcement or police department. They're not engaged in law enforcement. They're engaged in stalking. And they're doing so while they're listening to me give very damning commentary regarding the surveillance system and how it operates. And so they engage in that ongoing stalking. The police will engage in crossing paths, flying over your head and driving all around while they're listening to you talk about things that they don't want you to talk about. They're not controlling what it is that I'm stating. They're being disbanded for seeking to do so, however. And also for keeping my vagina under surveillance inside of that bathroom. For stalking me from place to place like I documented on video last night, for interfering with my First Amendment rights to enforce, by the way, and protect my life while I'm using my Facebook page. And the entity is on the venue of the internet interfering with my Facebook because I'm publishing evidence about them being demons in an engineered environment where the sun is not going to be rising and setting at the same address, and it is also not at the same time over 2500 South Archibald Avenue, off of the 60 freeway, where a bunch of demons are sharing in that pattern of conduct. The demons that you see stalking with impossible light, targeting me as a population. This is the Nephilim, and the Nephilim includes the Ontario police who are stalking on an ongoing basis. And in federal court, it becomes legally irrelevant regarding the claimed mental illness by Tracy Banks and Eric Spencer and Tommy Allen Banks and the Ontario police, the state of California, that sought to steal my money and thought that gang stalking was going to be sufficient to defame my character. But what it shows is the malice behind a criminal surveillance system, and they're going to federal prison for it. It directly rebuts defamation, meaning you're not even going to talk about what is the target individual. You are going to be prosecuted for state surveillance for targeting. And that's where the entity has not made an accurate calculation. This is P.O.C. This is 224 North Euclid Avenue. It's 9:19 a.m. There's no sun over the 2500 South Archibald, Ontario Police Department. But that's exactly what I'm going to remind you about when I publish this video. And you can look at my presence at the Ontario Police. Remember, I rode on Omnitrans. The entity kept the fake sun here on Euclid Avenue. Omnitrans is driving by. The sun is not moving through the window of that bus. I documented the demon gang stalking me while I'm getting off at the bus stop at at Riverside Drive and Archibald. And I'm walking down Riverside Drive, and I'm in the parking lot of the Ontario Police Department. I'm at the entrance. The demons are engaging with us, monitoring inside of that department with impossible light activity. It's also impossible while the sun is here, and you have impossible light onto the ceiling inside of the upper portion of that Ontario Police Department. They're demons, and they're engaging obsessively stalking me while I'm showing you them crossing path, and I'm referring to it on my podcast, where they're keeping every syllable under surveillance, and they're being disbanded for putting hands on me, for keeping my vagina under surveillance, for engaging in harassment like I'm documenting the puppets of Satan doing at Wells Fargo last night in the same exact specific environment where I'm showing you the fake sun and the fake moon over me. This is P.O.C. It is currently 9:20 a.m. All right, I'm capturing that video, and the entity is engaging in that as a method of stalking, just like it is when they use helicopter, and just like it is when they're using commercial planes. While they are listening to me give very, very damning commentary, it's an indicting discussion what I'm giving right now as I'm breaking down. That's exactly how the system operates. That's how it works. And the entity that's very much hostile to that, they're also fearful. They're intimidated. They engage. They're like cockroaches, and they come out from the crevices. The Ontario police are stalking the entire time. They come out from the crevices when they hear me giving those 6JT0. Hold on, let me get these demons. License 6J. TT011 8EZB 807. When they're listening to me give you that example, for example, imagine in your mind a police officer. Everybody can entertain that. And while you're flying in the opposite direction in planes and helicopters, and while you are engaging what is understanding what is occurring on behalf of a surveillance agency, not law enforcement, that's how you're understanding what gang stalking is, and they're going to be prosecuted not as they're not private citizens. They're not engaging in any speech that is protected under the First Amendment. They're engaging in what is state action, and doing so with regard to what is not even contemplated regarding your violation of your constitutional rights by the government that's documenting going under the name of Wells Fargo, going under the name of the city park, the Ontario Town Square, going by the name of the mayor's office, the city hall, going by the name of OVITT Family Community Library. It's all state action. Where that entity is also confirming that for you. That's why the entity is stalking me at that venue in that environment by planes and helicopters, clearly deviating from any published takeoff schedules that are published on the internet, any sort of takeoff that is very clearly established with regard to what a pilot that is not engaging in targeting, engaging in what is cruising through the city, engaging in what is creating a public nuisance as I'm documenting that, and also doing so as a matter of science where the sun is not going to sit over one person as I show it and underscore it at one address from the beginning until the end of the day, when I've been documenting this terrorist agency that's going to be disbanded and they're going to prison, as I'm showing you that not only are they engaging in surveillance, but they're demon possessed in doing so, and they are a threat to the public while they are of that condition that's relevant to mental illness. It's relevant to the mental illness that is a direct preclusion to being in law enforcement. In addition to their criminal activity, it's a preclusion, but their mental illness, based on their condition, as I've proven it, their demons, and their behavioral pattern of stalking and stalking more when they are caught, that's relevant to what is a threat to the public, to American society, and also while they're engaging in criminal activity, malicious in nature with the population. Under all circumstances, the Ontario Police Department is going to be disbanded, and justice requires that. And this is something that the Ontario Police Department are doing, which is statewide. This is what's going on in the rest of the country. These are gang members that engage in bullying, if not acting with those that are of their own volition, fully complicit demons that are engaging in targeting, state surveillance, monitoring spirits. All right, and they're doing so with regard to knowledge of exactly who I am. They're very much familiar with my vagina. They're very much familiar with what it is that I'm documenting, and that's not because they see me every day and everybody in Ontario knows me because no, they're demons and they're monitoring. They're demons and they're monitoring. And by the way, no matter how much I'm documenting, it does not make it logical and natural that everybody in the city of Ontario already knows who I am because those are the demons that are monitoring. All right, they're engaging in the pattern of conduct in the same way that I have not met every single person in Ontario. Every person that I'm documenting, oh yeah, I've seen you before. No, the entity's engaging in what is monitoring. That's how they're speaking to what is admission regarding my existence. That's not because I've encountered so many of them and they all know who I am while they're driving on Euclid Avenue. Oh, they know what I'm doing while I'm holding up my phone and they're speeding on Euclid Avenue. Oh, you know who I am. Right, because you see me every day doing, and you're assuming that I'm documenting, you're assuming that I'm doing something that's related to you in the first, and everybody in Ontario knows who I am. That's how you have a group quickly accumulating presence around me while the entity is then stalking in helicopter and in airplane. This is the entity that's engaged in gang stalking. Okay, this is the entity that's engaged in that, and it is, again, something as asinine as flying in the opposite direction when you're looking at the same P.O.C. You can fly north, south, east, or west in relevant position. You can fly in a circle 32 times. You can fly in a circle 5 times while the fake sun's over the top of my head. You're stalking. And you're openly exposing your mental illness to everyone. You're pacing. You're a demon that's pacing. Your mental illness is literally, you're wearing it on the outside instead of trying to hide it and conceal it on the inside. That's when they're wearing it on the outside. Okay, this is an entity that's engaged in that. And while I'm giving this discussion, the demons are very much fearful, stalking in the Ontario Police Department vehicle, doing so while they're keeping me under surveillance, which the evidence of the fake sun that's still here after 6 p.m. in the Ontario Police are engaging in what is like Abe Morris under the fake sun and Corporal Robledo gang stalking under the fake sun when the entity is having the food festival. The fake sun at 6 p.m. and the entity stalking by helicopter. The fake sun is over this same property after 6 p.m. and they're engaged in targeting. You are able to identify everyone amongst everyone else who is being targeted, and it is myself. Where the fake sun's remaining over me, they're walking in all manner of different directions. When I document that, that fake sun moves. That fake sun's not moving in 1,700 different directions at the same time. It's moving in the direction that I move. While they go north, that fake sun goes south as I go south. That is not a shared experience, and it's still over me at the same property, which I'm the one that's documenting, not them, because they're the ones that are targeting with the demons who are calling themselves a police department, an airport, a fire department, a business. They're calling themselves a neighborhood, a housing subdivision, an apartment complex, a property management company, in other words, a trucking company, a coffee company, a restaurant, a fast food restaurant. They're calling themselves a church. It's the entity that's engaged in what is public corruption, criminal surveillance, demon possession of monitoring spirits that are going under in the United States of America, making money off of criminal surveillance simultaneously underway. And this entity made the sore mistake because in federal court, it's absolutely irrelevant. There's not going to be any talk about Erica Spencer being mentally ill. We will talk about that because it's getting to the malice that police department is exhibiting while targeting. Oh, so you like to go around calling people crazy as you target them. So you like to psychologically torture them and then call them crazy and hold your rocks behind your back? Oh, that's what you like to do. Okay, so that's somebody that needs to be diagnosed. The psychopath that is hiding behind that police uniform and that badge. And it is proven as that agency is engaged in all manner of violence by stalking and terrorizing, using helicopters day and night, using literally the appearance of police on that vehicle to intimidate the people of the state, while they're keeping you under surveillance, while they're keeping what is now the evidence against them under surveillance. Now you're witnessing the entity that's engaging in that with real-time knowledge. Those are the demons that are going to prison for that. That's when it becomes relevant that you defame the character of the one that you are clearly targeting. And your claims of mental illness is absolutely legally irrelevant, even if the target individual had Down syndrome and osteoporosis, like I stated. Okay? The Ontario Police gang stalking by third party 10206 RS, coming out of the downtown luxury apartments as well, stalking in the path coming out of the parking garage that's filled with engineer light, engaging in surveillance, stalking at the Ontario Town Square, just like the Ontario Police are on video, driving around the perimeter, engaging in surveillance while Alan D. Wapner and Jim Bowman, Ronald Leverage, Kurt Hagman, and what is Julia Gu and the entirety of the Ontario Executive Board are engaging in what is terrorism with every corrupt airline that's going to be prosecuted for terrorism, while demons like license 10206R2 are simultaneously acting in the path targeting. All under a fake sun, all together keeping my vagina under surveillance. That's also why the Ontario Police are being disbanded. They're engaging in sexual violence, unprecedented with regard to the substance of it, incalculable with regard to the harm suffered where a population is engaging in what is obsessing over and stalking and monitoring the genitalia of the targeted individual. That is the particular type of sexual violence that the demon-possessed practice. And I've also shown that the entity maintains ongoing plane and helicopter activity as you disrobe. The entity maintains ongoing amplified activity. The entity engages in psychopathic pacing while they're engaging in that pattern of conduct. The entity is doing so while they are under that light source that's remaining over you until the end of the day, showing that you are indeed the focus of all the demons that are surrounding you in that demonic environment. All right, that's the entity that's engaged in that. They're doing so on behalf of what is the police that are acting through the people of the state that are not private citizens. That's what license 10206R2 is representing. Okay, and they're doing so as Wells Fargo that engaged in what is harassment last night as an entity, and this is the entity that's doing so. Those demons that hopped out of their vehicles in engineer light, this is the same population, 9MZK741, monitoring with the city of Ontario, stalking with the possible light while they're pulling in and out of parking stalls. They're sitting inside of and standing inside of Wells Fargo, monitoring me. And that's the prosecution of the business, which is going to be treated as a person under the law, a person that's a terrorist, a person that's facilitating terrorism amongst the government and a population, and a terrorist that's a violent sex offender engaging in surveillance under the malicious guise of a business name and logo. That's how the government is cleverly, and I put that in air quotes, cleverly maintaining criminal surveillance. License 5AKU117, 7TXR927, 9EFR422, 9FMD502, KNYKID2, license 8UON854, 9GQX040, 17352R2, license 9DFK437. These are demons that are gang stalking on Euclid Avenue. This is P.O.C. And this is the entity that's doing so while Omnitrans, Route 83 is crossing path, and there's no sun that's at the Chino Transit Center. That's moving through the window of the Chino, that's over me at the, through the bus of Route 83 or Route 84 or then Route 66, going in through the cities of what is Ontario into Montclair into Upland. The entity is keeping the fake sun here while the entity is stalking by the airport, stalking by every airlines. Those are terrorists. And so is the Ontario board. Those are terrorists. And those are co-conspirators to murder. Delta Airlines being prosecuted as a co-conspirator to murder and a sex offender. And that is the legal analysis for all of them that are acting with the Ontario police. License 9DFK437, 8P16731. And pulling up behind that third party, which is light activity creation, going to third party facilitating venue Wells Fargo, which is providing what is a criminal means of facilitating surveillance. 7WFL701. The entity has the fake sun over this same property at the end of the day, like the food festival documents where A. Morris and Corporal Robledo are gang stalking under the fake sun in the evening as an entity is stalking through the guise of what is an event at this same address. Doing so via the Route 66, this is exposing public corruption, and the entity is gang stalking under the fake sun, and the entity is doing so through the same means of the city where you are under no circumstances as a pilot taking off from the airport and then hovering miles away from that airport over the Ontario Town Square at the elevation, at that ongoing audible level. This is the entity that is targeting. They're engaging in the elements of monitoring audible activity. While demons like the license plate that I'm reading are stalking with impossible light activity, they're all stalking under a fake sun that remains at the address for the duration of the day, as long as I'm at that address. And that's directly juxtaposed with me going from city to city and showing you a sun that's moving through the window of a vehicle like Omnitrans, like Tracy Banks, like my own vehicle. And I'm showing you the fake sun that's remaining over me, including as I go from state to state. Now, when the entity's keeping the fake sun over the OVITT Family Community Library from sunrise till sunset, when is the sun in Las Vegas, Nevada? Because that's what I documented at this time of year. All right, this is an entity that is, again, under federal law being prosecuted, and the Ontario Airport, the police department, the fire department are going to be stripped with regard to being removed. 7NMS236 engaged in prolonged surveillance via Wells Fargo and the city of Ontario in furtherance of murder, and doing so through the convenience of the demon-possessed that are maintaining ongoing surveillance. And they, again, think, and while they're flying in the opposite direction, or where they're engaging in business in relevant position to you, engaging in a transaction, which is proof of presence, that they're engaged in anything that's protected and also incapable of being seen and recognized with regard to a federal prosecution for terrorism. And that's the entity that is, again, the demons that are stalking with impossible light activity. Unintelligent. Just demons that are engaging in what is unintelligent conduct. And the demons that are very much unintelligent are very much intimidated by me as I call all of that out. And they're still engaging in it because they are as obsessed as the evidence shows, and they are as obsessed as I stated was the outset. They're so obsessed that they lie about my character because they want to actually engage and keep maintaining ongoing monitoring. They're obsessed with stalking me and being around me. That's actually what's going on. And the witchcraft and the ongoing criminal conduct is going to put them in positions where they're not able to do so anymore. That's through a corrupt airport. That's through a corrupt police department. That's through a corrupt city system, which is a state system. And the entity is going to be demons like Jason Isaac Fields, Tracy Banks, Eric Spencer, Tommy Allen Banks, Leroy Lomaxa Spencer, in any way aiding in the state's pattern of conduct. He's gang stalking me when I'm in Los Angeles and when he is monitoring via communication devices. He's engaged in Title 18 federal stalking while you're using your phones. It's relevant to surveillance, and it's also all public information. Everything that they're stating, they are stating with the intent to monitor, to defame, to kidnap, and ultimately murder that target individual. Every phone conversation, every email, it's relevant to criminal surveillance. It's a prosecution for federal stalking under Title 18. Shanita Ramaya McLean, You have Kenneth Anderson, Anthony Jawan Kennedy, Glenn Anthony Williams, Dewan Williams. The entity that's engaged in what is feigning being my friend, feigning being a family member. They're engaged in what is gang stalking. And the city of Ontario is letting you know the pattern of conduct that those demons, whose name I know have been engaged in, they're not different or distinct. In fact, Eric sat here at this Ontario Town Square yesterday being a stalker. I have not spoken to him. He should not be able to just walk up and see where I'm at. That's not logical with regard to just because there's a library in Ontario, so you know that where I'm sitting at across from the library at the Ontario Town Square. No, that's not a logical leap at all. These are demons that are monitoring. They know exactly where I'm at. They're monitoring. And they're targeting with the same Ontario Police Department that's still engaging with the pattern of conduct with the entire population, which includes Tracy Banks and Eric Spencer and Tommy Banks, who engaged in kidnapping. That's why Jonathan Burnett is pulling out his cell phone after committing kidnapping on May 4th, 2019, and playing on his phone an argument that happened inside of Tracy Banks' apartment, which is supposed to be a private property. But you know that it's not, because the fake sun, as I've documented when I'm there, is remaining over what is very distinct. What's over Ontario Town Square is not over Unit 51. It's not to the side of 51. It's not causing any sunlight inside of Unit 51. It's not creating Tracy Banks' shadow and my shadow above my head inside of Unit 51. And I documented all of that and more at Tracy Banks' apartment, where she's engaged in surveillance, just like she is on the roads and the highways this morning under the fake sun, gang stalking me with the rest of these hostile demons who pull out helicopters and commercial planes, and they don't have any defense for it in court, and their acts of criminal defamation is an admission to targeting in the same way that the specific environment and all the asininity that they practice when you are not getting out of what is proven that you're stalking me. You can fly north, south, east, and west. You can fly in a circle over Wells Fargo while you're stalking me. You can fly over me, which is the target individual, like the entity does on an ongoing basis, flying over me, the one whom they are stalking. Just like everybody else. This is P.O.C. and there is no evidence of any mental illness while you are shown and surrounded with evidence of clearly targeting. Okay, that's removing altogether any sort of even entertainment of that defamatory narrative in a courtroom that is not engaged in what is state surveillance. And it's not going to be discussed. Tracy Banks is going to federal prison, and so is Jason Isaac Fields. So is Eric Spencer. So are the kidnappers of the Ontario Police Department and the kidnappers of the Ontario International Airport. Those are terrorists, and this is relevant to what is federal prison. The years that are invested in terrorism and psychological torture and sexual violence, they go to the extent to fly and stalk at Tracy Banks' apartment, where no planes are going to be heard. They are never flying. While I'm here, I am never observing any commercial planes flying north of me, even in the sky space over Woodside Senior Apartments, nor is that the conduct of the airport. They're only flying over there, flying literally over the apartment building while the fake sun is over me, while I'm there, and I documented it. I also documented the public nuisance, the nuisance, the private nuisance, while I'm inside of Tracy Banks' apartment, where the fake sun is rising and setting, where the entity is aiming impossible light inside of her apartment while demons are stalking in commercial planes. Doing so where the fake sun is rising and setting at Tracy Banks' apartment, where Tracy Banks is engaging in criminal summoning with the Ontario Police, where demons are monitoring my vagina inside of the bathroom of her apartment, which she is participating in as an incestuous sex offender, obsessed with my vagina, just like every other demon. Just like every other demon, you're dealing with a spirit that's using Tracy Banks, who is disguising, and not very well, as a mother, and that's clearly not a good disguise. I'm prosecuting her. Your mother is not going to be gang stalking you. This is a demon that's engaging in the pattern of conduct, and it's shown through evidence, okay? And in court, no gang stalking demon is going to supersede the evidence of the P.O.C. by claiming I'm her mother, and so therefore I'm above the law, and because I said that I love her, and I would never do this in the face of evidence. You're going to prison. 7TXR927 is gang stalking me with her, and that's what this unintelligent demon and this unintelligent system relies on. That gang stalkers that are in your family, they're going to supersede what is hard evidence of targeting, and it's not. And that's not even logical, and that's not how the law works, and that's not how an investigation or a prosecution operates. But they don't know that because they've never been held to the fire regarding exposing what they're doing. That's why I'm catching ignorant conduct, which is very, very expensive with regard to a civil and criminal prosecution. Very dire consequences, in addition to what is them sacrificing themselves. Because those spirits of death, they're not touching me. They're not coming toward me. They're not coming to sacrifice my kids. I'm not going to die of asphyxiation overnight. I'm not the one that's going to suffer poverty for the rest of my life. I'm not going to be homeless. The entity is engaged in what is putting all these curses on themselves, while they're also going to be prosecuted in the physical. And it includes removing the levels of corruption in Ontario in particular. It's going to be gutted out. It's going to be stripped down. Okay, everybody participating in kidnapping me. Everybody participating. Oh, you think it's funny that I'm homeless when it's your fault. These are the people of the state that are targeting me on the job. That's the entity that's speaking. Those are the psychopaths that they're envious of me and the money and property that they stole from me. Understand, that's an entity that's speaking with the mildew socks and the yellow Air Force Ones. Okay, this is the entity. You're stalking me on the job. You're obsessed with me on the job. You're envious of my abilities on the job, both as a practicing attorney and as a property manager, which I'm not even passionate about. It's very easy work that I could do with my eyes closed. And even as I do that, you're stalking and you're envious and you're obsessed with me. And then you want to claim that I'm homeless and it's your fault while you're stalking me on the job. That's also serving to disband the Ontario Police, because they're doing so in an environment. LAPD is criminal monitoring and Ontario Police is criminal monitoring. The Ontario Police is being disbanded. But it's exposing Dominic Choi, Michael Moore. Michael Moore retires right when Dominic Choi steps in, and then you have what is Daniel, I believe, or Donald, that's replacing the interim terrorist, Dominic Choi, while I'm subject to terrorism, which I'm documenting in Los Angeles at this time of year. I resigned in July of 2024 because I was forced to while this entity is threatening my life. You can't go to work while the Ontario Police are stalking like this, doing so in the workplace, while the entity is molesting you and stalking you, monitoring your genitalia where you're at work, where you're subject to ongoing ceaseless harassment, threatening you. You cannot maintain employment in that under those circumstances. That's beyond harassment. It's terrorism on the job, and I'm going to recover for that. But pay attention to what the entity is stating. Eric Spencer talking about, well, we don't understand. You voluntarily walked away from your job. Listen to the audible noise, because this demon is monitoring. He's monitoring, and that is a malicious and false representation of reality, and he knows it as well. And the proof that he knows it is because he's gang stalking. That's the malice behind everything that he stated yesterday. He is even in Los Angeles gang stalking me. Him and Tracy Banks come to LA. They come give me a hug, showing up at my job, didn't announce themselves because I stopped speaking with them. The LAPD resumed stalking me by helicopter. I immediately stopped talking to Tracy Banks and Eric Spencer. I stopped taking their calls because I know that it's P.O.C. After I'm being kidnapped and I'm starting over again. If a paranoid schizophrenic, if you're really paranoid, then you're not going to be that able to and willing, like I did, showing that I'm perfectly healthy. Again, that's another example of somebody that's not mentally ill. I don't have to defend myself or anything, but there's so many things that have happened in what I'm documenting, including the P.O.C. and the prosecution that I'm controlling, or well, that I'm publishing on the internet. But the entity, the circumstances, and that which I've done simultaneously, and that which I've handled, and the ways in which I have handled this circumstance is in every regard directly conflicting with what the entity is necessarily doing secretly behind my back, okay? Meaning you are definitely trying to defame me, because you know you don't stand a chance trying to defame me in my face, because that's why they were embarrassed. Those demons are stumbling on May 29, 2025. So which one is it? Did Tracy call you here? Did she tell you that something happened? Who told you about a prescription? What are you talking about, saying? What are you talking about? That's why they're stumbling. You can't do it in my face. Okay? Their lies are stumbling over each other, and I always capture them doing that. License plate FR422. This is a homosexual who's stalking, who's very much consumed with what it is that I'm stating, and the demons are hostile to it. But like I stated, this is an entity that's engaged in that conduct. And while after being kidnapped by the state, Ontario Police that are being disbanded, in San Bernardino County that are being disbanded, and the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court kidnapping as the state. That's the full function of the state, kidnapping. And that's S. Patty. She's going to prison, okay? Arnold, this is documented kidnapping, and the entity stole my evidence. So the video documentation of them engaging what is a battery at Holt and Euclid Avenue on July 31st, 2022, that is evidence that was stolen. I'm released from what is a kidnapping. The entity does not have my property. The entity and my property is evidence against them. The entity is engaged in what is destroying my property. I don't have any of my personal property, which is evidence, which is S. Patty seeking to avoid prosecution by obstruction of justice, destruction of evidence against her in the state. That's, again, the Ontario Police Department that's being disbanded. All right, but the entity engaged in what is assault and battery while they're using what is criminal summoning, stalking in the path with demons that are stalking with light, like this demon 10706R2, a traffic stop with those demons is criminal summoning. All right, they're doing so while they're engaged in monitoring together, and S. Patty engages in what is assault and battery while I'm on public property in their alternate universe, and I could stand there and document all I want. I'm not interfering with your investigation while you are coming over toward me, leaving your investigation to see what I'm talking about, because you're triggered while I'm catching you under the fake sun gang stalking me under the guise of what is a car wreck at Holt Boulevard and Euclid Avenue. under the fake sun, where she committed assault and battery, attacked me, and then engaged in what is the malicious assertion of what are federal charges for obstruction of an officer while she's engaged in gang stalking with her partner who commit kidnapping together. And then they get rid of the evidence after I'm remaining kidnapped in the ward, holding up signs, identifying the judges, identifying the absence of any arraignment, identifying the ongoing defamatory nature and the entity that's engaged in Title 18 federal stalking in the facility. And there I'm holding up those signs, identifying myself by bar number, identifying the circumstances of the illegal arrest. In other words, clearly demonstrating there's not mental illness, that you have a right to keep somebody in the ward, and they're clearly disregarding that because the objective is to kidnap and defame. That's why they did that in the face of evidence that is on the surveillance cameras of Shannon Dykes, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. That's why they did that. So while you're doing that, and I'm showing you direct evidence, though, no, there's no mental illness here. Engaging in what is libel by putting me in the uniform, engaging in what is libel by merely keeping me kidnapped in the cell, that's insufficient. But that's what they did in the face of me identifying my bar number. I'm referring to the law. I'm citing the law. I'm creating signs and holding them up on the camera, clearly in control of all my faculties, and pointing out the unlawful circumstances were behind the arrest and the names of the judges and what they're doing when I'm not permitted in the courtroom, identifying the cameras but that you can refer to with regard to where they're taking me, and I'm not being admitted into any court because they don't want me to speak. My ability to show you the pattern of conduct, this is why they didn't have me in a courtroom. Shannon Dykes and the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court are fully engaged in kidnapping. And they're facilitating kidnapping by S. Patty, the Ontario Police Department, who's at this Ontario Town Square gang stalking in 2022 at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, pursuant to what? Relying on the demon-possessed who are gang stalking. They rely on criminal summoning. There's an ongoing connection, in other words, by fact connected to the next fact, connected to the next fact. The entity is engaged in what is ongoing gang stalking, and I have already surrounded them with a chokehold regarding evidence. It's already prosecuted. It's already proven. The entities engaging in this conduct, and they're very much intimidated by me, and they're still engaging in what is criminal monitoring. And remember, they're still conspiring my murder. That's what that means. The Ontario Police Department is still conspiring my murder. That's what that means. Been conspiring my murder while destroying evidence of it. Been conspiring my murder while psychologically torturing me and then trying to criminally defame me. You engage in kidnapping and then you put me in the ward? And the charge is relevant to what? Obstruction of an officer? Where is the information that's relevant to just throwing someone in the ward? Oh, does it have anything to do with the fake conservatorship that Tracy Banks has? Trying to create a paper trail that her and Jason Isaac Fields are referring to in court hearings that I'm not a part of, claiming that I'm dead, claiming that I'm a prostitute, claiming that I'm a drug addict somewhere while I'm sitting up kidnapped by San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department Shannon Dykes, claiming that they don't know where I'm at. They know exactly where I'm at while I'm subject to kidnapping. That's why they're going to prison. So is every kidnapper of the Ontario Police Department and every gang stalking demon in helicopter and in police vehicles. They're engaging in what is surveillance and furtherance of murder by virtue of me getting your license plate under the fake sun, getting your license plate on the morning that you cover up the fake sun, getting you and your images and documenting you in my presence, communicating a threat and bearing weapons and exercising authority under the law that you don't have in furtherance of the conspiracy to commit murder. You're going to prison under all circumstances. The fake sun shining or covered up. The entity is doing so in furtherance of murder under all circumstances, and they've repeatedly engaged in kidnapping with the demons who are stalking with impossible light. The demons who are monitoring and stalking me in the bathrooms of the OVITT Family Community Library. The demons who are sitting around while impossible light is reaching into the depths towards me, where they're all stalking. License plate 21422 Charlie 3. Demons are stalking, pacing on Lemon Avenue at the 280 North Lemon Apartments, where those old people are gang stalking. Okay? This is P.O.C. The entity's engaged in that, and I want to be clear. This is the entity that destroyed that evidence. So when you look on my website, and in 2023, it's currently 9:48 a.m. by the way. When you look on my website in 2023, what you'll see is the absence of evidence regarding the kidnapping that I was subject to on July 31st, 2022. You will see the podcast documentation. All right, you'll see the ongoing evidence. S. Patty, the Ontario Police, destroyed, removed, stole my evidence, and they did so with the intent to obstruct justice, and I don't need to. I've already created the policy because of the criminal conduct of this government. When the entity is engaging in what is kidnapping, you are typically proving the pattern of conduct by documentation. Okay, that's the standard. Just like you're somebody stalking, you can't just say, "Oh, they're stalking me." Then you're dealing with some. If you cannot, when the entity is targeting you, you can prove that. It's not a matter of anybody's imagination. And moreover, you prove it through what is documentation. Documentation that is able to stand alone, okay? Not only that, when the entity is engaging in the pattern of conduct as I've shown that, oh, you are engaging in kidnapping as though you're going to somehow avert justice. No, you're not, because once they've engaged in what is kidnapping, upon establishing the P.O.C., which you are still capable of doing, everyone knows now how the P.O.C. is underway. And once the entity is engaged in that, now testimony is sufficient. The target individual's testimony, meaning what they recall, what the experience was, they're going to be able to testify to it in court because the entity engaged in kidnapping them and stealing their evidence, which is not going to be the inability to prove that you were kidnapped. Now you're just going to be able to testify to it in court because the entity stole the evidence of it. So that's what the entity is doing. So S. Patty is engaged in, and her gang stalking partners are engaged in what is destruction of evidence while they're committing kidnapping, and they commit kidnapping under the offense of what is stating that I'm in violation of federal law, a federal charge, two of them, federal charges, two demons, so two federal charges of obstruction of an officer while they're engaged in criminal summoning. That is criminal surveillance under the guise of centering light activity, relevant positioning, and audible activity around me at Holt Boulevard and Euclid Avenue. Very heavily documented pattern of conduct. The fake sunrise and sunset over me at 150 East Holt. It's already on the record. The entity commits kidnapping in July 31st of 2022 in that specific environment, and I'm fully in exercise of all of my rights, not interfering with their investigation, by the way. They have the tape up. I'm not ducking under that tape. I'm not interfering. Hold on. Let me document. Let me get in here because you're all stalking me, and I know what this is, and I'm going to get my... No, I'm not doing any of that. They are maintaining what is the pattern of conduct. I'm under the fake sun where I'm the true focus. I'm the one that they're stalking. And they are engaging in what is, in other words, lying, having an excuse to be in my path to stalk me. That's what criminal summoning is, through a traffic stop. Where, by the way, which I'm documenting at 11 o'clock in the morning, at the same Holt Euclid Avenue when I'm getting off of the bus, Route 83, on this same street where the fake sun is present this morning at 7 and it's still over me on this same street. This is where the entity S. Patty's engaged in what is criminal summoning at that same intersection, Holt and Euclid. Last Sunday is what I documented. And the fake sun is over me where the entity is committing kidnapping at about 8 o'clock in the morning on July 31st, 2022. And pursuant to what are the charges, this is where the entity makes that leap again. And the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department makes that leap right along with them. The Ontario Police commit the kidnapping, the physical kidnapping. The San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, they commit the kidnapping on paper, creating a booking record, providing what is the appearance of legitimacy of a kidnapping by that police department. There are demons that are gang stalking inside of that facility, making up information also criminally defamatory in substance to support what is their kidnapping in the ward in furtherance of the pattern of conduct to commit murder and kidnap as a mental health patient that they wanted to defame in order to steal my money and property. This is helping Jason Fields. This is helping Tracy Banks and Eric Spencer that sat in court and they know they're going to prison. Don't be deceived. Even though the entity is gang stalking by helicopter, they're stalking by planes. That's not because they don't know they're going to prison. They're literally so idiotic. They're still doing it and they know they're going to prison. They are going to federal prison. They lied on my character, and it is not just Tracy Banks. You're not going. Tracy Banks is not going down by herself. Tracy Banks didn't gang stalk me. She didn't get the government to stalk me by helicopter. She's not controlling these demons that are stalking me by helicopter. They're going to prison. In the same way Jason Fields is going to federal prison. I don't care what sex she's giving you. You're going to prison for what you chose to engage in. And there is no spell that's providing you any defense at all. The entities engaged in this conduct in S. Patty, they didn't get federal charges for what is obstruction of an officer. And then all of a sudden I'm thrown back in the ward. And the entity kidnaps me there for 6 months. The uniform is libelous. I'm on surveillance cameras. That's libelous. This is the entity manufacturing a relationship with San Bernardino County that I'm documenting gang stalking under the fake sun at the same Wells Fargo with the City of Ontario, with the Ontario Police Department by helicopter, Ramada by Windham, Omnitrans in Chino, California, San Bernardino County gang stalking, the San Bernardino TAD office, San Bernardino County gang stalking, the Fontana Lewis Library is San Bernardino County gang stalking, targeting me through what is kidnapping with the OVITT Family Community Library on June 16, 2022, San Bernardino County gang stalking, and is engaged in what is criminal monitoring. I want to be clear, all those demons that work in the medical profession calling themselves they're demons. They pace in and out of the cells of Shannon Dykes' West Valley Detention Center. They stalk with amplified noise. The entity has impossible light activity inside of the cells inside of that jail. So, because the sex offenders that are obsessed with me are stalking me with light inside of that cell while I was subject to that demonic means of sexual violence. While deputies are monitoring. They come in and out of that cell with regard to monitoring me specifically in concert with the demons that are sharing the unit and are engaging in what is monitoring my vagina inside of the unit, inside of the jail. The fake sun is over the position that I'm located in at the West Valley Detention Center. And that's the evidence of it is where the fake sun is where the engineer light is present. In the same way that you know that the engineer light inside of the OVITT Family Communal Library is not sunlight. Everybody knows that. Sunlight is not stretching across the carpet, into the depths of the entryway, over the staircase, past everybody else in perfect alignment with me. That's not sunlight. And it's also the same pattern of kind of stretching across the walls inside of the West Valley Detention Center. Moving down from the top, those are tall, towering walls inside of the West Valley, and they don't have windows. They have 5 little small panels at the very top. There's no windows on the roof. So this is an entity that's engaging what is the evidence of the fake sun is understanding the P.O.C. Where the entity keeps that engineer light, that's where the entity has the fake sun because it's creating the illusion. So the entity creates the engineer light, and that's how you know that the fake sun is over me at the jail in the unit, in the unit where they're kidnapping me. And that's where all of the entity is pacing around me while they were engaging in ongoing ceaseless surveillance, monitoring me as demons, celebrating my kidnapping for 6 months inside of West Valley Detention Center, where they kept engineer light moving all the way, swimming all the way up from the top of the wall to the bottom of the wall, and all day long for the duration of the day, 10 hours, while demons of San Bernardino County wearing badges, RNs and certified nurses on camera trying to make me appear as a patient. Where they're engaged in kidnapping, they're monitoring me. They're coming to my cell when I'm clearly holding up signs, not a patient, no mental illness. This is defamation upon kidnapping, federal stalking, Title 18, 22618, California bar number 306971. My name is Erica Spencer. Here's my booking number. This was an unlawful, I'm reciting all of this clearly on its face. You don't have a right to keep somebody in the ward area with that. On its face. But even more than that, they're not only doing so because of the purpose of gang stalking, they're working really hard to try to make me a mental health patient because this is what the state's ongoing conspiracy is serving. Not only that, but the entity, and that's Shannon Dykes, that has no basis. The surveillance cameras are showing you shouldn't have been keeping her in the ward. And then you're getting into the substance where it's a kidnapping in the first place, and there is no basis for me to even be there, let alone in the ward. And that's how you know that the Ontario police are not targeting by themselves, and that the county doesn't know that the Ontario police committed an unlawful arrest, or that the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court doesn't know that the Ontario Police Department committed an unlawful arrest, that nobody's going to talk about in that court hearing when it's ongoing criminal monitoring in the first place. That's why you know that. That's how you know that. They're engaging in what is absurd with regard to the leap. Obstruction of an officer to being placed in the ward for what? For what? Because even if I'm interfering with an investigation and using my cell phone, what evidence of mental illness is there? There is none. The only evidence of mental illness is what the entity states as existing, because they think, all the gang members together, they write it down together on documents that bear legal significance, and with regard to the Welfare and Institutions Code, when they make up information, they put that made up information on paper, and then they have certified physicians that never met me, and if they were ever in my presence, it was pursuant to kidnapping by the Ontario Police Department and by Tracy Banks and Eric Spencer, and that they are thereby manufacturing a relationship that does not exist in order to defame my character on paper, where the entity is not permitting me entrance into the courtroom because they don't want me to adequately represent my interests and strike down everything that they're doing with regard to my knowledge of the law and my full ability to represent my own interests, and tell the gang stalking PD, I don't want your help because you're not representing me. They're a gang stalker working for the public defender's office. The entity is engaging in all the tactics that I'm exposing because they are fully engaged in monitoring, and the entity had to try to muzzle me in order to do it. That's the only way. But there is no muzzling the evidence of targeting. The evidence of targeting that the government has fully provided is directly relevant to the clear targeting by the county, the San Bernardino County Sheriff, and the courthouse as well, where they are clearly deviating from the ways in which the court operates, the policies that govern how the court operates, the rules and my constitutional rights regarding how that court should be operating. That's speaking to what is necessary when you're targeting. The reason why you have to violate those very clear, glaring rules is because you're targeting me. You cannot both engage in targeting me and also abide by the rules of the California Rules of Court. It's mutually exclusive. You have to engage in what is clearly not making the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department provide service of process in order to target me. You're not going to abide by and force them to do their job mandated by statute and engage in what is targeting me at the same time. That's how you're very able. It's very obvious when the courts are gang stalking, and it's very obvious when the Sheriff's Department are gang stalking. The manufactured information on the booking record, the multiple copies of the booking record that they get based on what it is that they're monitoring as I take note on it about it inside of my cell, as I document it. And then they'll give me another booking record and they'll adjust the information. And then they'll give me another booking record and they'll adjust that information. And they'll give me a booking record that's referring to, why they stated that when they were trying to accomplish that criminal purpose. But now in 2025, that narrative is not working. So they're referring to in order to give substance, and it's not. This is all the illusion, the delusion rather, of the entity that's thinking that it has any legitimacy, that anything that is said is even believed in the first place. None of it's believed. The entity is already known to be engaged in targeting me, and the entity is not providing any sort of illusion whereby I'm deceived. I'm the one that told everybody, this is what's going to happen. You're going to go to prison. I'm going to prosecute you. This is the entity that is, again, still engaging in that which is assuming that you have you don't have any legitimacy, Shannon Dykes. Your booking records that are referring to a mullet, which I never had, and but that's the best way that ignorant people are referring to what is cornrows in my hair. That's the kidnapping that they used to describe me. I don't have cornrows right now. I have individuals. Not the same at all. Longer hair versus plaits on my head. Not the same hairstyle at all. So when the kidnapping in September 28, 2025, they're referring to their description of me when they engaged in kidnapping in 2019 and 2020. That's what they're referring to. That's not giving any sort of legitimacy or substance to the kidnappings that remain just that. The San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department has no protection, and they're fully exposed as targeting in concert with the Ontario Police and in concert with Tracy Banks, in concert with San Bernardino County San Bernardino County, and also with the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court. But I just want to point that out. This is relevant on the entity's own paperwork, which is an admission, just like a receipt when you're going to the gas stall and you're gang stalking. That's an admission to criminal monitoring. It's not protection regarding, I'm not getting, no, yeah, you are. And the proof of it is literally your receipt whereby I'm going to prosecute you. Where I'm going from what is hearsay, hearing that in my investigation that you may have been there, to you establishing criminal presence by giving me your receipt, I'm going to prosecute you. That's how gang stalking is executed. All right, so this is relevant to the entity's ongoing delusion regarding having any legitimacy whatsoever, and they don't. All right, the entity is keeping the fake sun over the Ontario Town Square, and it is not over the entrance of the OVITT Family Community Library. The fake sun moves east as I move east to the Ontario OVITT Family Community Library, which is evidence in addition to the fake sun shining in alignment to my position at computer number 1 inside of that venue, where impossible light is stretching into the depths of that library at 6 o'clock in the evening, where the fake sun is still seen aiming toward me, where everybody outside, every business is engaged in what is keeping me under surveillance, with the kidnappers of the Ontario Police pacing around the perimeter this morning, license 91440B2, with demons that are stalking me and targeting me with impossible light, with demons that are very much hostile and very much fear-stricken by my discussion this morning regarding the operation of federal group stalking and monitoring, demons that are monitoring. All right, this is the entity that does that, and they always do that because they're very much intimidated and they're scared to death. They are scared to death when they hear that, and that's supposed to be the thing that causes the target individual to be quiet. They're engaged in that conduct. The entity is stalking me all night long and every day in helicopters, by the Ontario International Airport, by planes, doing so in an unmistakable environment that is directly contradicted when I am in different circumstances, like being on public transportation, being at Tracy Banks' apartment, being in a hotel room, being and living in an entirely different county and city, such as Los Angeles, where in a natural environment, the weather, the sun, these are things that are predictable. It's not predictable and it's not consistent in the specific environment where that environment is following me, and demons are engaging in what is surveillance. Demons that you know are now present. Demons that are engaging in criminal activity, calling themselves deceptively the Ontario Police Department, deceptively Paul Leon, a mayor, an Ontario City Council, deceptively an Ontario International Airport, an Ontario board, an airport, a president of Airport Authority, an Ontario executive team. This is what the entity is disguising itself as, and they're enemies of this country. They're engaging what are acts of violence while I document and expose that, and they've been targeting me with regard to knowledge who I am. That's also how you know that they're demons, because they're inexplicable means of targeting me for no reason and defaming my character in the ways in which they have. Remember, they're not only targeting, they stated that I'm a drug addict, that I'm a prostitute. They've even stated that I'm dead. These are things that the entity is going to stand for in court while they're gang stalking me. You're gang stalking a dead person, huh? Okay, so you're making up lies because you counted on the fact that I'm being gang stalked was never going to be proven. That was never going to be talked about. That's why you made those blatant lies? Is that why? That must be why. Oh, you were banking on this never coming out. That's the part. Okay, these are co-conspirators of murder. They're going to prison. They're calling themselves a police department. They're being disbanded and they're going to federal prison. They have a population engaging in surveillance with them, and this is heavy-duty, obsessive surveillance. They're both hostile with me. You see that at Wells Fargo. And they're also crouching next to me, stalking me in the bathroom, obsessed with my vagina, pacing above the library, pacing all around the library when they are altogether aware that my panties are down. Those are the sex offenders that are defaming my character and stalking me and wanting to steal what they're envious of, targeting me on the job and then claiming that I'm homeless, when you're the one that is responsible for the economic state that I'm currently in. Those are the psychopaths that are gang stalking. This is an entity that's going to be prosecuted for terrorism. And there are very specific names that are going to prison, and there's no negotiating out of it at all. Okay, it's currently, like I stated, I'm going to capture video. It's 10:05 p.m. The entity is maintaining the specific environment and is doing so pursuant to criminal surveillance on behalf of the state, is doing so in an environment that's readily identifiable. The video that I'm going to capture is what you're going to juxtapose with the fake sun shining through the depths of the OVITT Family Community Library at 6 o'clock in the evening. The screenshots that I captured yesterday of the fake sun being in alignment with the entrance while I'm walking out of the library, the entrance doors, and a bunch of demons that are delusional. You're looking exactly at what they are. There's no deception and there's no hiding. These are demons that are out in the open, and they're also engaging in stalking criminal conduct. The federal government is watching a corrupt civilization. Well, this is not a civilization, a corrupt population, because these are literally animals that are hiding in meat suits. These are demons. All right, and they're engaging in criminal conduct on behalf. It's legally relevant. The police are stalking, and the police are stalking to commit murder. A population is stalking to get away with murder. A population is engaging in criminal activity in my name to get away with kidnapping and murder. And none of them are strangers when the fake sun is remaining at the same address 9 hours from now. Okay, this is P.O.C. Alrighty, it is currently, by the way, I want to show you, first of all, the absence of the sun over the OVITT Family Community Library. It's 10:06 a.m. and at 10 a.m. when I'm entering, the Ontario Police Department gang stalking at 9:55 a.m. when the doors are about to open, this fake sun is already over the entrance. When I'm inside and the entities keeping the fake sun over the entrance as I walk in, that's speaking to the OVITT Family Community Library being a gang stalker. And they're a gang stalker in places that are sexually perverted and sexually motivated, such as the bathroom where Mickey is engaged in monitoring my vagina. Mickey is also a psychopath stalking me with light inside of that library where the sun is maintaining presence over me, which is how you know that Mickey is a malicious psychopath gang stalking with a population, doing so in the workplace, which is this OVITT Family Community Library where there is no sun over that entrance. Neither would the sun be even at that entrance when I'm capturing it over the same entrance at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm capturing it over the parking lot of the same library at 7 o'clock in the morning. There's a history of the entity targeting in this supernatural environment in concert with the people of the state who are stalking in the past, doing so as businesses, doing so as a population, bodies maintaining ongoing stalking presence, which they also maintain while a fake sun remains over me in this manner when I'm in the city of Upland at the same time. Don't forget when I am getting on Route 66 in Montclair, California, and the entities that keeps the fake sun over the African-American female that's operating Omnitrans bus, Route 66, going to Upland, where there's no sun that's going to ricochet while this demon 8NUU546 drives by me. That's a stalker. And doing so while the fake sun is not over the OVITT Family Community Library. An unpredictable and inconsistent environment where demons are exhibiting mental illness by stalking with impossible light activity and stalking with methods of light. 9MEB339, stalking with impossible light, and stalking with light with the headlights on aiming toward me is the maintenance of light, mental illness under both circumstances. License plate 8NYG342, and this is all criminal based on the Ontario police that are being disbanded. This is the entity that does not have any sun over the entrance because I'm not inside of that building yet. And as I'm approaching it, you're looking at the sun move east apart from the Ontario town square where the airport is engaged in targeting, where the people are engaged in targeting, 1-800-DNB. The entity is engaged in what is keeping the fake sun when I'm in Montclair, California on Route 66, an entirely different city. The entity is keeping the fake sun over me while I'm remaining, by the way, what is already inside of the overtime. I want to show you this fake sun as I'm moving. Well, I'm remaining at the same venue and walking out at 6 p.m. where this fake sun is aimed perfectly inside of this venue into the depths where no sunlight is shooting like a laser straight through into the depths of the library to come toward me, just like this, on the carpet toward me with engineer light. Everybody in this building is monitoring. Everybody outside the building is monitoring. This is a criminal conduct by the city of Ontario, and it includes the Ontario Police Department, where there's no sun that would ever engage in that. It still wouldn't be here, contrary to what I documented yesterday evening. This is all stalking in the past. All of them are monitoring me. As I walk out at 1 o'clock, it's the same environment, which is how you know it's a demon that's stalking. And a psychopath that doesn't have any cover anymore, 7XRF909, and the police are being disbanded for it. They do so on behalf and in concert with the police, who are acting in furtherance of murder. That's why they're going to prison for gang stalking. And the entity is doing so while I'm capturing day and night into and out of the library what is ongoing surveillance by the over 17 library, maintaining that surveillance system with sex offenders like this that run into the bathroom to monitor my vagina. Okay, this is the entity that's engaging what is 10:09 a.m. and here's the fake sun. It moves east, and remember it's still over this Ontario town square as I walk out at 6 o'clock in the morning. 6 o'clock in the evening. This is P.O.C. at 215 East C Street. All right, this is the Over Family Community Library. That's a deceptive misnomer. The entity is engaged in what is massive surveillance, sexual violence, and furtherance of murder. And they committed kidnapping at this venue, and they're going to federal prison for it. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, I am capturing that video, and you are looking at the entity moving in real time. And the entity is aware of who I am and what I'm doing before I enter the Over Family Community Library. All right, they're engaging in surveillance. It's not a library, and it's also not a private space in the bathroom. And those are sex offenders that are engaging in that. This is P.O.C. and that's the malice of an entity that's engaging in surveillance on behalf of the entity, and that's also why I captured the ongoing surface environment, engineer light shooting from the opposite side of the, in the children's area, and you're looking at a large ball of light, creating impulsive light on the wall. You're looking at to the side of the overcoming library, under the large ball of light, supposedly under the guise of reflecting over the windshield, and it's spreading all across the carpet. I'm showing you the entities impulsive light shooting while they're walking on the carpet, and their shadows are pacing before and around their person. That's not the artificial light. It's not the product of any nuclear or natural environment. And the entity is also maintaining engineer light while I'm showing you it's reaching out toward me in the evening at 6 p.m. This is all iterations of what is engineer light for purposes of surveillance. And it's occurring maliciously and intentionally pursuant to what is statewide surveillance. That is an ongoing government system of what is maintaining that environment. That is very obvious, as I've shown the P.O.C. And it becomes more obvious because demons are triggered. So when they engage, in other words, when demons are triggered, they engage in very obvious, what was supposed to be subtle, what was supposed to be clandestine, what was supposed to be surreptitious. It becomes very obvious because the demons are triggered. So then you've got 20 minutes and then you flying over my head by helicopter. You've got engineer light shooting it through like a laser into the depths of the same library. 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 hours later, the fake sun is shining in alignment to me through this venue, and it's across the carpet while a bunch of psychopaths are being quiet. They don't have to talk to you while they're engaging in terrorizing you, and you're going to diagnose them for that. That's psychotic. Very, very, very psychotic conduct. The entities engaged in this, however, while they are, you can hear me, I'm holding the wrong phone, but you can still pick up my voice. This is the entity that's engaged in very malicious methods of targeting someone, and they are clearly triggered by me. That's why you have a bunch of boys ganging up on me yesterday, because they're embarrassed by their obsession with me. They're embarrassed by being defeated by me. Remember, this is spiritual warfare, but there's no warfare with regard to a bunch of demons that are proven to be stalking. There's no war. There's no competition. You're stalking me. You are already losing. And these are demons that are engaging in what is priding themselves in targeting someone and outsmart. They don't want to outsmart anybody. They bully people. They murder people. They kidnap and set up people. That's what this what Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields represent. They're not brains. They're infected genitalia. They engage in what is sexual activity with people, casting spells on folks. None of that stuff works on me, and I'm certainly not. They're not touching me. That's gross. But like I said, none of those tactics work on me. That's all the conduct of Satan, the children of the devil. They are beneath my feet, and they are entirely defeated, and they're embarrassed while they maintain that status that they don't have a choice about. They don't have a vote in it, and that's the prosecution of a government that is triggered and obviously targeting me as a whole airport, obviously targeting me as a police department, obviously targeting me as any business in that specific environment. There is no hiding that fake sun. It's not both remaining over me throughout the city of Ontario, into Chino, into Montclair, into Fontana and Pomona, and what is upland back into Ontario, and then remaining stationary over the Ontario Town Square the entire time. The demons are stalking as a department at the Ontario Town Square while it's over the Ontario Police Department at the same time at 9:16 a.m. And I also happen to go to the city of Fontana, and I also happen to go to the city of Chino to juxtapose that. It's not the sun. These demons are engaged in surveillance, and they're very highly unintelligent. They're very unintelligent. And they're so unintelligent that they lack self-control because they've never been prosecuted before. And when you are engaging in a prosecution, you have to be able to focus. You have to be able to strategize. You have to be able to anticipate. All right, these demons they're not doing any of that. All right, they're just shooting and firing and missing, and then engaging in what is cussing at me because they're mad that they lose. That's it. I'm dealing with a bunch of imbeciles. It's literally that simple. This is the P.O.C. It's 10:14 a.m. This is the documentation regarding what is the inevitable prosecution of demons that are going to federal prison. There's no getting out of that. And not only getting out of it, there is no other consequence that's going to result from what the evidence proves and what justice requires. And this is relevant to everybody else that's going to be prosecuted accordingly. The Ontario police are being disbanded. They've been engaged in surveillance, and they're doing so with the people of the state that commit kidnappings, engage in criminal summoning, criminal defamation, doing so with the various levels of government, and doing so with the people of the state. And that's the entity that's doing so with regard to the delusion that anybody is under any sort of confusion or mystery regarding what is going on as I've exposed it in California. What I'm subject to is what American citizens are subject to. And you know it because there's no sun in Nebraska when they're keeping it over the OVITT Family Community Library. And you know that. It's over me as I capture video this morning at 10, and it's still here. As you know, I just captured the day that was today's the 11th, 10 on the 8th at 6 o'clock in the evening, and it's still shining in alignment to me, like literally where I'm sitting. And I take that back. It wasn't computer number 1. I was sitting at computer number 4, which is right next to computer number 1. All right, it's aiming toward me. It's even going toward the angle of where I'm sitting. It's very specific where that engineer light is reaching out toward me. The obsession is personified through the stalking with light conduct. And so is their mental illness.
Alrighty, this is a demon. And this is a documentation of Sarah Regis that is a sex offender. Sarah Regis is engaged in the perpetual sex offense. This is the demon-possessed that are engaging in psychopathic pacing and doing so through the molestation of physically you're looking at a vehicle that would be driving by, but what's actually happening with regard to the demon-possessed who are practicing a demonic system of targeting, which is all state action, they're engaging in what is molesting me from a distance while I'm at the Ontario Town Square while they are stalking with light. The perpetual sex offense is underway by Sarah Regis Group at Downtown Luxury Apartments at 320 North Euclid Avenue. This is the ongoing perpetual sex offense that I'm subject to, and on the opposite side of my person where Mule Car Smokehouse is located at 200 North Euclid Avenue. The entity keeping the fake sun, as I documented today, on one block. Okay, so let me remind you about that block, less than 0.4 miles, where you hear demons stalking with amplified noise. This is where the fake sun started at 537 North Euclid Avenue, right here. You can see me touching the screen. And this is where I remained, and I captured the fake sun still in alignment on this same street where Downtown Luxury Apartments is gang stalking, doing so as a population of demons who are repeatedly engaging in what is a sex offense. And I'm going to go right in that parking garage and document as many sex offenders as possible. That entire apartment building is going to be prosecuted for terrorism, and every terrorist that is residing there is going to be subject to a federal prosecution. They're violent sex offenders, and they're going to be appropriately labeled. And Sarah Regis Group, sex offender engaging in gang stalking. The entity is engaging in repeating it right now while I'm documenting. That's exactly why the people of the state are going to be prosecuted as the terrorists that they are. They're sharing and documented terrorism with the Ontario Police Department, the Ontario Fire Department, the Ontario International Airport as well, and the people of the state whom you hear sharing in what is amplified noise, demonic pacing, while demons of the Downtown Luxury Apartments at 320 North Euclid Avenue are engaging in the sex offense. Okay? That's not the purpose of a car charging station, which is, again, a basis for prosecuting the malice of the P.O.C. This is where the entity kept the fake sun on one street, Euclid Avenue, as you are looking at the distance from 537 North Euclid Avenue. And don't be distracted, because Satan doesn't want you to listen to what I'm stating. And when you hear the audible activity, that's how you know you need to turn the volume up and listen closer, because it's still going to be in court and they're still going to be prosecuted for terrorism. The entities engaging in what is maintaining this fake sun right here on this street where downtown luxury apartments and CEASELESS Regis Group is going to be prosecuted as a terrorist, as a sex offender, and engaging in what is federal stalking and furtherance of murder, as companies are going to be prosecuted aiding in what is murder committed by the government. And that's exactly what downtown luxury apartments is. Every employee, every third-party resident, every psychopath, every demon-possessed person using that venue as a means of criminal facilitation regarding gang stalking that you are hearing underway and that you're seeing underway. While the fake sun at 7:19 a.m. at 537 North Euclid Avenue, and as I go, what you see is less than an 8-minute walk right to the OVITT Family Community Library, where I'm showing you what is the fake sun that's at the same location, by the way, at 5:05 p.m. This is where the entities engage in that P.O.C. Doing so with regard to stalking with the fake sun, which is exactly what I'm capturing at the OVITT Family Community Library at 6:03 p.m. This is CEASELESS Regis Group, the parking garage where they're molesting me repeatedly as sex offenders touching. Sex offenders are going to be identified in the state of California, and sex offenders are going deceptively by the name of Downtown Luxury Apartments, CEASELESS Regis Group, which is headquartered in California, by the way. And they're also doing so by the names of third parties whose license plates I'm going to capture. It's a means of identifying for the public information of those that are going to be looking into this evidence. It will be a matter of what is public information for you to refer to. There will be maintained a database for anyone in the world can look up the terrorists in California and the United States. That's also another reason which is relevant to and the service, the public service inherent to the P.O.C. It is currently 7:51 p.m. This is the perpetual sex offense underway by the people of the state. And the entity engaging what is monitoring with impunity as I document them. Those are the predators of the downtown luxury apartments, engaging in what is sexual violence as an entire apartment community, which is underway by an entire city. That is indeed engaged in gang stalking. This is the Ontario Town Square. This is P.O.C. Molesting on the way to the venue. These are the sex offenders that I'm going to identify by license plates while they're monitoring, and they're aware of the fact that I'm coming toward the venue in order to document them by license plates. And they're also monitoring while I publish video about them being sex offenders. These are predators conspiring murder in real time while they're being prosecuted, and that's going to be recognized in their prosecution. Let me get this sex offender's license plate at Ontario Town Square because they're acting as an entity. So let me get this one on this side, but I'm going to go and get all the sex offenders inside of the parking garage. Engaging in their aiding with molesting my body with light. 9MRF134. All right, the Ontario Town Square is a sex offender. That's the city of Ontario. Mule Car Smokehouse is a third party engaging in a sex offense. Every Herradura de Oro, the Unique Cafe, every business is engaging in a sex offense together. It's a massive criminal act, but when the entity is going to be prosecuted for terrorism, and the entity, remember, had conspired murder, so I didn't die and I'm not going to die, and so now the entity is going to be prosecuted in ways that it has never fathomed before, and in many ways is unprecedented, and it's unprecedented because of the criminal system that the government is engaging in. So you're not going to be denied justice because they chose to target you through millions of people and through hundreds of businesses at the same time. That's not going to cause you to be denied justice by pure numerosity of the predator. Not at all. Okay. This is P.O.C. Downtown luxury apartments is very heavily documented gang stalking. 5PRV. Well, I can't really see that sex offender. Driving out, aiming light. Ooh, these are demons. Standing in the light in the parking garage. Let me get these gang members. This is gang conduct. And it's also psychopathic. Everything that they're doing, the fake sun remained at 0.4 miles on the same street. They're sitting there monitoring. These are demons. You can see the light behind them. This is psychopathic. They do the same thing concerning my vagina, and they are all demons, and they're also psychopaths that are engaged in stalking someone else, and now their whole act is before the world, and you're aware of the mentally ill that are engaging in predatory conduct and furtherance of murder. So these are not normal people. These are demons that are engaging in what is stalking. So their purpose was standing there in the light, and then walking outside to maintain presence, blocking the path. Like when I'm being monitored, my vagina's under surveillance in the bathroom, making sure that somebody's in my path as I walk outside of the bathroom. Stalking, okay? This is what the demons are doing inside of the parking garage. These are cockroaches that are just in vehicles. That's all they are. They're cockroaches on wheels, literally.
Okay, this is P.O.C. Downtown Luxury Apartments. Saris Regis Group is being prosecuted. Saris Regis Group is a domestic terrorist. Saris Regis Group is actually a threat to this country while it is engaging in facilitating domestic terrorism. And Saris Regis Group is aware of the fact that it's being documented while it's still engaging in facilitating conspiracy to murder, because that's what you're doing when you're gang stalking an American citizen by your employees, by your establishment, by your residents, by your engaging in that pattern of conduct and providing a means whereby the government is engaging in that pattern of conduct. You are under all circumstances liable civilly and criminally. And none of that is ignorant. The entity is not ignorantly engaging in the pattern of conduct. This is public corruption, and this is how you're going to prosecute it. It's 8:05 p.m., by the way. License plate 9GDN412, 9TRY129, 8LDK770, 9FYM457. Nine MLS 450, 7DVL 152, 9ENC 075, 8SUS 710, 9LHU 654, 9TJZ 841. Paper is DZ49S89. That's paper. 9ESE 576, 8HZT 415. License 7SMJ 480. License EG43J49, that's paper. ATZ98 and T792YC, that's Utah. (7WNC 589), 8RIW900, 26L4217, that's a motorcycle, 6PKV500, Pinky RG, that's PINKYRG, 7JHP261, 9NMA647, 9TUJ690, 05763P2, 8XLN046, 9JWL226, 9GBH524, EG38D36, 8XQC974, 9SRP946, 8VXW878, 8JDH507, 9HXM454, 9MKG665. These are all the sex offenders sitting at the Tesla charge station inside of the garage, and they're systematically, so these are demons coming from all around, sitting at the Tesla charger station, and they're coming in, engaging in gang stalking and doing so, and molesting one demon after another after another. They're engaging in surveillance. 8NIS 188, 9VMR 314. This counts as another facilitating venue, by the way, inside of the parking garage of the Downtown Luxury Apartments. 9AQU 182, 8WVX 012, because the parking garage is not necessarily associated, if you will. It's associated, but it might not necessarily be that which is of Saris Regis. Saris Regis just permits it, and that's again a detail with regard to prosecution. Tesla garages, Tesla charge stations and things of the like are a means of surveillance, just like sitting in a drive-thru, and it's a means of identifying criminal surveillance maliciously by the entity, and they're going to be prosecuted for that. All the ways in which the government's engaging in the pattern of conduct, providing a crime scene for the people of the state to sit around stalking somebody, sit around monitoring, sitting around stalking and monitoring with a light while the government flies around them by planes and helicopters. As you're aware, the P.O.C, you're going to prosecute for things just like this. It's malice and it's psychopathic. They come from anywhere, sit at the Tesla, charge up their car, and go back to like LA County when they want to come in. Who do I want to target in California? Oh, we know Erica's out there. Let's go sit in Ontario and let's go torture her for a little bit, and then we'll go back home. We'll get some Chinese takeout and go back home. All right, license 12519H2, POC. and it's currently 8:13 p.m. Sex offenders engaging in surveillance at Wells Fargo that engaged in harassment last night and battery and assault as an entity. 9EGS 557 is on surveillance cameras, gang stalking. The demon makes a U-turn in order to commit the sexual assault and battery as an entity. That's a psychopath that's touching me while engaging in what is a U-turn as I'm crossing the street. Those are the tactics of sex offenders that want to touch. All right, this is Wells Fargo that's engaging in that sexual violence as a facilitating venue, sharing and that ongoing molestation. While they permit sex offenders to use the property to engage in gang stalking, you are going to be prosecuted for gang stalking and all of that which is encompassed within gang stalking. With those deep pockets with regard to that brand name, you are going to be prosecuted. This is how that public corruption is going to be prosecuted with regard to targeting domestic terrorists that go by large, influential, powerful, and lucrative names, if you will, engaging what is terrorism under the guise of a brand. That's very, very malicious, and it's also a capitalistic endeavor in the United States, and so that's what you're targeting, and you're going to directly disincentivize that. You're going to directly disincentivize that by these means of prosecuting. And it's also prosecuting in this way because that's literally what the company is doing. That's literally what the employees of the company are doing. That's literally what the establishment and the fake sun is over the building. The entities engaging in gang stalking, doing it. It can't do it without people there. The entity is always maintaining people, even if there are people that don't live there, bums on the street, gang stalking on the ground. They're standing on the sidewalk in front of your property. They're gang stalking. You're going to be prosecuted. Period. All right, that's how they do it. The entity cannot do it under any circumstances without the civilian population of demons. You're going to be accountable. You're going to be held accountable. It is currently 8:16 p.m. and this is P.O.C. This is a demon, and this is a documentation of Sarah Regis that is a sex offender. Sarah Regis is engaged in the perpetual sex offense. This is the demon possessed that are engaging in psychopathic pacing and doing so through the molestation of physically you're looking at a vehicle that would be driving by, but what's actually happening with regard to the demon possessed who are practicing a demonic system of targeting, which is all state action, they're engaging in what is molesting me from a distance while I'm at the Ontario Town Square, while they are stalking with light. The perpetual sex offense is underway by Sarah's Regis Group at downtown luxury apartments at 320 North Euclid Avenue. This is the ongoing perpetual sex offense that I'm subject to, and on the opposite side of my person where Mule Car Smokehouse is located at 200 North Euclid Avenue. The entity keeping the fake sun, as I documented today, on one block. Okay, so let me remind you about that block, less than 0.4 miles, where you hear demons stalking with amplified noise. This is where the fake sun started at 537 North Euclid Avenue, right here. You see me touching the screen, and this is where I remained, and I captured the fake sun still in alignment on this same street where downtown luxury apartments is gang stalking, doing so as a population of demons who are repeatedly engaging in what is a sex offense. And I'm going to go right in that parking garage and document as many sex offenders as possible. That entire apartment building is going to be prosecuted for terrorism, and every terrorist that is residing there is going to be subject to a federal prosecution. They're violent sex offenders, and they're going to be appropriately labeled. And Sarah's Regis Group sex offender engaging in gang stalking. The entity is engaging in repeating it right now while I'm documenting. That's exactly why the people of the state are going to be prosecuted as the terrorists that they are. They're sharing and documented terrorism with the Ontario Police Department, the Ontario Fire Department, the Ontario International Airport as well, and the people of the state whom you hear sharing in what is amplified noise, demonic pacing, while demons of the downtown luxury apartments at 320 North Euclid Avenue are engaging in the sex offense. Okay? That's not the purpose of a car charging station, which is again a basis for prosecuting the malice of the P.O.C. This is where the entity kept the fake sun on one street, Euclid Avenue. As you are looking at the distance from 537 North Euclid Avenue, and don't be distracted because Satan doesn't want you to listen to what I'm stating. And when you hear the audible activity, that's how you know you need to turn the volume up and listen closer, because it's still going to be in court and they're still going to be prosecuted for terrorism. The entity is engaging in what is maintaining this fake sun right here on this street where downtown luxury apartments and Sarah's Regis Group is going to be prosecuted as a terrorist, as a sex offender, and engaging in what is federal stalking and furtherance of murder as companies companies are going to be prosecuted aiding in what is murder committed by the government. And that's exactly what downtown luxury apartments is. Every employee, every third-party resident, every psychopath, every demon-possessed person using that venue as a means of criminal facilitation regarding gang stalking that you are hearing underway and that you're seeing underway. While the fake sun at 7:19 a.m. at 537 North Euclid Avenue, and as I go, what you see is less than an 8-minute walk right to the OVITT Family Community Library, where I'm showing you what is the fake sun that's at the same location, by the way, at 5:05 p.m. This is where the entities engage in that P.O.C. Doing so with regard to stalking with the fake sun, which is exactly what I'm capturing at the OVITT Family Community Library at 6:03 p.m. This is Sarah's Regis Group, the parking garage where they're molesting me repeatedly as sex offenders touching. Sex offenders are going to be identified in the state of California, and sex offenders are going deceptively by the name of Downtown Luxury Apartments, Sarah's Regis Group, which is headquartered in California, by the way, and they're also doing so by the names of third parties whose license plates I'm going to capture. It's a means of identifying for the public information of those that are going to be looking into this evidence. It will be a matter of what is public information for you to refer to. There will be maintained a database for anyone in the world can look up the terrorists in California and the United States. That's also another reason which is relevant to and the service, the public service inherent to the P.O.C. It is currently 7:51 p.m. This is the perpetual sex offense underway by the people of the state, and the entity engaging what is monitoring with impunity as I document them. Those are the predators of the downtown luxury apartments, engaging in what is sexual violence as an entire apartment community, which is underway by an entire city. That is indeed engaged in gang stalking. This is the Ontario Town Square. This is P.O.C. License JASTORM, M as in Mary. (8:32 p.m.) The entity engaging in what is stalking by the Ontario Police at F Street in Euclid as I'm crossing the street. Demons are also stalking with the Ontario Police by walking by. Remember, you're not just walking by, you're monitoring. They have quadruple shadows while they're walking by an engineer light, stalking somebody that's at a bus stop. That's how pathetic demons are. That's how desperate they are. And they're also using a helicopter to stalk me. And they're doing so with FedEx. So the world needs to know that FedEx is engaged in, and it's very much into terrorism. And they're into what is adding to the implosion of gang stalking, especially in Ontario, because the Ontario Police is not going to be in existence anymore for engaging in terrorism with very well-known companies like FedEx, and FedEx is going to be very well known for terrorism in the United States. And there is a body of evidence prosecuting FedEx, and FedEx is engaging in terrorizing me, is engaging in doing so with knowledge of the fact that I'm documenting it and the entity, and is intentionally doing so while a demon is operating that and is also invigorated. They are satiated and gratified by that, which is the personality defect of the demon possessed that are engaging in what is pacing. I'm taking pictures of that right now. One demon after another crossing path, like when I'm inside of the library and they're sitting inside and I'm walking. That's called crossing path. As you walk by one person, that's what they're doing when I'm sitting down and everybody's driving by me. It's psychopathic pacing, and you will see the Ontario Police exhibiting severe mental illness and demon possession as you are able to identify that. And they're doing so as a demon-possessed entity that's engaged in what is publicly, openly conspiring my murder, and that murder is not going to be accomplished. And they're also going to federal prison, everyone that engaged in conspiring my murder by engaging in a kidnapping, which I also documented by this agency. They're being disbanded, though. And they're still in to date. It's 8:34 p.m. and FedEx is engaging in this terrorism, crossing path and engineer light. FedEx is not engaged in what is under the law, recognizes any lawful conduct or any protected conduct as a company. FedEx is established as a third party, by the way, and they are in this environment a third party that is specifically targeting me. FedEx, the demon operating that vehicle, knows who I am, knows where I am located, and is engaged in the demonic synchronicity inherent to what is being in the path with the demons that are in a helicopter engaging in the hallmark of surveillance by the gang stalking police that are serving for prosecuting the entire system, showing how criminal surveillance is operated by a corrupt government that is the Nephilim exposed, the demon possessed. And it is relying on what is the gang stalking of police departments that are actually engaged in criminal surveillance. And so that's the Ontario Police is going to be disbanded for their role in the criminal system as I've exposed it and as I'm prosecuting it, and also in the criminal conduct that the people of the state have engaged in. Okay, The entities engaging in this with the pattern of conduct that you're mindful of, the demons of the Ontario Police gang stalking in the vehicle today at 9:15 a.m. on video, they were stalking. And there's no reasonable question about that. And I'm also capturing them stalking when at the same time they are stalking me at their own police station under the fake sun amongst what is engineered light. I will prosecute them at the Ontario Police Department. I will prosecute them at any street, at any location in the city of Ontario because they're engaged in criminal surveillance, including at that police department, which is exactly why they're being disbanded. And by the way, it's a scientific impossibility that the sun is anywhere near the 60 freeway over my head at 2500 South Archibald at 9:16 a.m. and also at the same time over me at the Ontario Town Square at 224 North Euclid Avenue, where this agency is stalking me in a helicopter at the Ontario Police Department and stalking me by using what are issued vehicles revealing what is the threatening identity of a police department that's gang stalking. Yeah, that's a scientific impossibility, and they're going to prison, and that's the disbanding of that department, that embarrassing and exposing criminal pattern of conduct. Demons that are engaging in stalking at your police department, via your police department, that's a police department that needs to not exist anymore. And that's exactly what's happening. License 9 PSF 753, 7KXD 598, 9 CFR 388, I believe, 9 HOE 829. This is P.O.C. and it is ongoing terrorism at 8:37 p.m. where the demons are again fixated on me, fixated on what it is that I'm now that I'm stating it. The entity is obsessed with me and obsessed with my vagina, obsessed with obsession with me is proven by the fact that the fake sun did not go anywhere. It went 0.4 miles from 537 North Euclid Avenue, which I captured on video, to 215 E.C. Street, where I'm capturing it as I walk out of the entrance doors of the OVITT Family Community Library. And that is a direct insight into the mental illness of the demon that is stalking in a helicopter. Okay? And the demon that's stalking in light, where the demon is stalking in a helicopter at the Bethel Chapel Church. Just like I documented yesterday, stalking across the street. They all like to stop at the church right there. It's not because they're praying. Not everybody's stopping there praying. The demon in the red Jeep is engaged in criminal surveillance. Demon stalking with light, just like Sarah's Regis Group at the downtown Ontario luxury apartments. While they engage in this psychopathic behavior, the demon possessed are going to be committed and they're going to be convicted for terrorism. And their mental illness is a threat to the public. That is why you will be able to access their information, look up terrorists in this country so that they cannot secretly exist among us. Okay, as sex offenders, as terrorists. All right, P.O.C. It is currently 8:38 p.m. All right, this is the entity. It is currently, by the way, 9:07 p.m. And this is, again, the ongoing targeted conduct by that same agency. This is the second time engaging in what is pacing over the intersection. The entity hasn't gone anywhere. This is the entity just flying over my head, and that's the entity stalking with the possible light, as I already captured, is the pattern of conduct, and this is in sync with that agency that's stalking in a helicopter. This is, again, what Sarah's Regis Group is engaging in, stalking with light, right there. Doing so in concert with the Ontario Police. Yeah. That's Bucket Crabfish. That's El Pescado. This is license plate 8PIC 241. And watch out for this. That's P.O.C. This is the entity engaging in what is that pattern of conduct together. That's Ontario Police in a specific environment. So this is the people that stayed engaging in the conduct or conspicuous stalking. That's P.O.C. Alrighty. That's, again, not their headlights. That's not their headlights. They're gang stalking with the Ontario Police, and the Ontario Police is engaging in ongoing terrorism. They're going to be in federal court. The people of the state are going to be in federal court. Tracy Banks is amongst the same population. She's going to federal prison. And the people of the state kidnapping with that agency, they're going to federal prison. The people of the state, this is them engaging in criminal summoning. They're going to federal prison. So this is the entity they're spinning their wheels, and they're going to be prosecuted and targeted with regard to every law and policy that can be applied to target domestic terrorists. That's the Ontario Police that's obsessed with me. I'm the one that's exposing the Nephilim. I'm the one that's prosecuting them. I'm the one that's humiliating them. And I'm the one that's disbanding them. This is P.O.C. It is currently, by the way, 9:09 p.m.